Hey, folks. Today's episode brought to you by sunsetlakesebede.com. Use the code LEFTISBEST. 20% off. Big storm coming this week. This weekend, I should say. And if you're stuck in home, it would be nice to have some Sebede around. There's flour, there's keef, there's pre-rolls, there's fudge, there's coffee. There's, if you're having trouble sleeping, there's tinctures and gummies with a little THC. Oh, I think we got an email about the tea the other day. I can't remember anything. But somebody was talking about how great the tea was. And of course, Brian knows that's why he can, things are much better at the house these days. He brings home a little bit of tea.
If they want to stock us back up, I'd appreciate that.
There you go. It's the only way he gets through the week now. SunsetLakeSebede.com. All of their Sebede is grown without pesticides. They use integrated pest management, great business practices, great movement partners. They've donated tens of thousands of dollars to things like refugee resettlement and strike relief funds and Planned Parenthood, carceral reform. They're involved in mutual aid up in Vermont. I mean, just an all-around great group of folks, great company, and a great product. And you can get 20% off with the coupon code LEFTISBEST. Put that in the podcast and YouTube description. And now, time for that show.
The Majority Report with Sam Seder, where every day's Casual Friday. That means Monday is Casual Monday, Tuesday, Casual Tuesday, Wednesday, Casual Hump Day, Thursday, Casual Thurs, that's what we call it, and Friday, Casual Shabbat. The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
It is Friday, January 23rd, 2026. My name is Sam Seder. This is the 5-time award-winning Majority Report. We are broadcasting live steps from the industrially ravaged Gowanus Canal in the heartland of America, downtown Brooklyn, USA. On the program today, Matt Duss, Executive Vice President of the Center for International Policy, co-host of the Undiplomatic podcast. Also on the program today, no work, no school, no shopping. Minneapolis general strike happening today in protest of ICE invading that city. Meanwhile, the House votes to approve DHS funding with the help of 7 Democrats. House on almost a total party line vote. House Republicans defeated a resolution to curb Trump's attacks on Venezuela. Meanwhile, the U.S. formally leaves the World Health Organization. What could go wrong? Trump administration halts the use of human fetal tissue in NIH research. This was a a year-long debate issue during the Bush years, and now just one more day.
Yep.
More studies come out show that a shingle vaccine lowers Alzheimer's risk by up to 25%. Also keeps you from getting the shingles. National Park Service tears down a slavery memorial in Philadelphia's president's house. Kash Patel fires senior FBI linked to the Trump investigations. U.S. and China sign off on a TikTok spinoff. And Amy Klobuchar, the Char, files paperwork
Charizard.
to run for Minnesota governor. All this and more.
She breathes that fire, baby.
On today's Majority Report. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen.
What do you think Charizard is, if you were to guess? Just guess, what is a Charizard?
Charizard?
What's Charizard?
Charizard? It has something to do with Swiss chard.
No, it's a Pokemon.
I thought
I have
you had
no
a
idea.
12-year-old boy that you would know.
Yeah, that's
No,
what-
the Pokemon is
Not
so.
a Pokemon?
You know what? He was actually
Yeah, I mean from back in the day.
He
though.
was
Yeah.
actually, now that I think about it, but he never got deep into it. It was more just like his friends were doing it, so he got some cards, but he never seemed to really care that much about it. There was like one, he only liked it because he thought like there were some cards that were really valuable and others that were
Speculative
fraudulent.
aspect,
Yeah, for him, it was just asset management.
Yeah.
That's all I cared about.
teaching them.
I
well.
never played the game either. I collected the cards for exactly that reason. Like
Yeah.
here's a holographic. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, he just thought like somehow he was going to make some money off it or something. I don't know.
Well, anyway, I think that's a funny name for Amy Klobuchar. So, the Charizard.
There you go.
Although, I mean, dang, I wish that someone better was running for governor there. But what are you gonna
yeah.
do? Yeah.
I think it's time for someone to return.
Oh my god. I would love a Ventura return.
The real question is also who's going to be running for Senate,
Yep.
that Senate seat.
I mean, 2 brand new senators in Minnesota. Then,
Yep.
by the way, hello, it's Casual Friday.
Oh, did I not say that?
Yes.
Yeah.
My name
I'm
is
a
Emma
little
Bigland.
disjointed today.
So we all are disjointed, I think.
Yeah, it's it's been a very, very long 3 weeks. Now we are 3 weeks into January, really just 1 year into the Trump administration, almost to the day. And we'll be talking about this vote later in the program to fund the DHS in the House. The big thing is that Jeffries did not whip this vote. Only 7 Democrats voted for the funding. It is unclear and probably unlikely that Democrats could have stopped it in the House anyways. There could have been maneuvers, earlier on in the way that they structured or attempted to structure these bills that might have helped the vote in some fashion. But it's really going to come down to the Senate. And the thing to keep in mind is when someone like Tom Suozzi votes to fund the DHS, he's not just voting to fund today's DHS.
Yep.
He's voting to fund everything that DHS is going to do over the course. I mean, presumably, let's just, he's doing this for electoral reasons. Everything they're going to do for the next 10 months. And if we look at the progression of ICE over the course of the past 10 months, the idea that you're going to bet in 10 months out that this is you can defend funding this agency to the majority of your voters, I'd say is a pretty bad bet.
Yeah, look at how Angie Craig's having trouble after signing on that thanks for ICE thing now up in Minnesota.
Yep.
Here are these 7. I just want to say their names: Mary Gluesenkamp Perez, Jared Golden, Don Davis, Tom Suozzi, as you mentioned, Laura Gillen, Vicente Gonzalez. Those are the 7 that voted to fund the agency that is currently wreaking havoc, shooting mothers in the face, kidnapping children. We're seeing videos out of Minnesota of them tackling a little boy to the ground as he says that he's legal, and harassment in Maine. It's horrendous. By the way, 2 of those were Ezra Klein's suggestions in his piece about how to defeat Trumpism, of people who should have just as much say in the Democratic Party's future, Gluesenkamp Perez and Jared Golden, as Bernie Sanders and Zoran Mamdani. It's a big tent. We need to include the people that have decided to fund the Gestapo in this country.
I mean, putting aside like just sort of like even the sort of the moral aspects of it, from an electoral perspective, like this seems to be an incredibly bad bet. And certainly it would be even more so if more Democrats were to do it. I mean, the idea that these people are trying to burnish their law enforcement bona fides, ICE is not performing law enforcement. That's exactly the point. And it makes it much harder to communicate that. So, and now Jared Golden's not running for re-election. I mean,
cashing
I hope
out.
he doesn't think that he has any future in Maine politics, because this is pretty poorly timed. We're going to play footage coming out of Maine later in the program. But all right, we will talk more about that in a bit. But let's get to J.D. Vance. Yesterday, Emma talked extensively about this memo that came out, whistleblower. And it's not like, as a lawmaker, you can't say you didn't have a heads up as to what's going on, where the agency basically is telling its ICE agents that you don't need to follow the Fourth Amendment of the Constitution. Essentially, the case law and the Constitution itself calls for a warrant to enter someone's home. And a warrant is a specific thing. And maybe, like, we shouldn't even have anything called like an administrative warrant, because theoretically we could issue administrative
Exactly.
warrants.
Yeah, here's a piece of paper. That's worth it as just as much, like a piece of paper if I were to write, I can break into your house. That's the equivalent of what an administrative warrant is.
It doesn't mean anything. The whole point is that you're supposed to have a judge look at it and determine whether the request to enter someone's home is warranted. And but here is J.D. Vance in Minnesota. They send him in, it appears, just because he is the most shameless liar of the bunch. Mm-hmm. And well, let's listen to what there's a multitude of lies in this comment. But let's listen to him respond to this question.
The Washington Post reported today that an ICE memo allows agents to enter people's houses without a judge's warrant. What do you say to people who are concerned about this violating the Constitution, and how much is this tactic being used?
Yeah, so I saw that story, and the story is like so much that I read in the mainstream media. It's missing a whole lot of context, and when you appreciate the context, it makes sense. No one is saying, look, there are exceptions. For example, a crazy exception, if somebody is fired at from inside a house, they don't need a warrant to go inside that person's house. There are very narrow exceptions to the warrant requirement where law enforcement officers don't need a warrant if, for example, they're an imminent threat of their lives. But what we've said and what ICE has proposed, what the Department of Homeland Security really has proposed in the Department of Justice, is that we can get administrative warrants to enforce administrative immigration law. Now, it's possible, I guess, that the courts will say no, and of course, if the courts say no, we would follow that law.
Pause it.
Nobody's
Pause
talking
it.
about
That is literally the functional equivalent of us of saying, listen, we're going to sign warrants so that we can go into people's houses and force them, force them to subscribe to the majority report.
Yep.
And now it is possible that a judge may find that we're not allowed to do that. But, I just want us to put that out there.
Yeah, and it really is telling too that I was talking about this on the show yesterday. Like when the Bush administration was forced, and then the Obama administration, to get warrants for their warrantless wiretapping, they at the very least were going through these FISA court judges that were rubber stamping it. Of course, that process was corrupt in and of itself. This isn't even that. They're circumventing the judiciary in the way that the administration has effectively made the legislature so inept and is like, yeah, we can rescind whatever money we want when Congress passes the budget or whatever. They're doing the same thing with the judiciary.
And we should say immigration judges do not issue administrative warrants.
Yep.
It's definitional. The administrative warrants are just like essentially internal documents for
ICE.
For ICE that are generated by ICE.
Right.
They would be, if they were issued by a judge, they wouldn't be called administrative warrants. They'd be called judicial warrants.
And he's a lawyer and he knows this. Obviously, he's lying. But the point is they can issue an order of removal that is not the same as a warrant to enter a home.
He also, I think, calls immigration judges administrative judges. And I think that's to conflate the use of administrative warrants.
It's a warrant.
Yeah.
It's an administrative judge.
Right.
Yeah.
Because she says a judge's warrant, which is how you should phrase that when they're doing the administrative warrant bullshit.
in the Department of Justice is that we can get administrative warrants to enforce administrative immigration law. Now, it's possible, I guess, that the courts will say no, and of course, if the courts say no, we would follow that law, but nobody is talking about doing immigration enforcement without a warrant. We're talking about different types of warrants that exist in our system. Typically what happens, not always, but typically in the immigration system, those are handled by administrative law judges. So we're talking about getting warrants from those administrative law judges, and then of course, with other cases, you get judges, or you get warrants
Pause
from a
it.
judge.
We're not
That's
talking
very-
about that at all. These are not signed by judges. That's the point. He can like create all these sort of like new categories or sort of like vague categories of judges but they're not signed by a judge.
Warrants are a land of contrast.
This sounds like a used car salesman trying to explain to you why the price is $10,000 more than he originally stated.
It really is like that. But it also, is this a retreat too? Are they basically kind of saying that they're going to maybe go through some sort of pretense at this point? Because at least publicly, because like what we, in that Associated Press article, it's incredibly damning. They said that this memo was issued in May or something like that of 2025. And then from that period on, it was, they couldn't take the documents with them when they were showing these ICE agents, and one of the whistleblowers couldn't make a copy of it. It was just verbal from there on out. So they know they're hiding something.
Right. And I think, look, Vance's visit to Minneapolis is a show of weakness. He would not be there if this was going the way they wanted it to. That doesn't mean that they are weak. They are not. They have a ton of money. They have a ton of weapons. They have a bunch of thugs working for them. But it does show on some level that they feel like they need to do some type of, damage work or crisis work or whatnot. And so they send this guy who's a really world-class liar. I mean, he does it with an ease that is disturbing. Go ahead.
About doing immigration enforcement without a warrant. We're talking about different types of warrants that exist in our system. Typically what happens, not always, but typically in the immigration system, those are handled by administrative law judges. So we're talking about getting warrants from those administrative law judges. And then of course, with other cases, you get judges or you get warrants from a judge. That's very consistent with the practice of American law. I'm sure the courts will weigh in on that, but we're never going to enter somebody's house without some kind of a warrant, unless of course, somebody's firing on an officer or they
Right.
have to do something in order to protect themselves.
Right.
I'm reminded of when Vance earlier this year was at a press conference and was asked about the War Powers Act. And he said, quote, that it's a fake, fundamentally a fake and unconstitutional law. There's no such thing as fake laws.
Yeah.
Sure,
passes.
but like for him, like that, you don't just get to call a law fake and not abide by it. But I guess this administration, that's the lesson they learned from the first go around, and I guess currently.
So he's there or was there yesterday, I guess, just trying to do damage control. Meanwhile, we've seen ICE agents enter into homes without even their administrative warrant. But the administrative warrant is, again, like...
It's like a janitorial warrant.
Exactly. In a minute, we're going to be talking to Matt Duss, Executive Vice President of the Center for International Policy and the co-host of the Undiplomatic podcast, for what we saw this week at Davos, perhaps what's also going to happen this weekend in regards to Iran, and really the final nail, or just sort of like the dawn lights on Marblehead, the international, the so-called international rules-based order the mirage of it has been, I guess, revealed. I don't know how. Maybe we come up with better language for that on some of it. But the drapes have dropped from the eyes. Is that what it is?
Scales. I think
Scales.
is the Bible.
Right. I knew there was something that fell from the eyes. Here is the fundamental question from our sponsor today. Is the worst thing about having a cat litter box?
Yes, definitely.
Yes.
I would argue the worst thing about having a cat is when they don't use the litter box.
Yeah,
But then the
it's related.
second worst thing is the smell from the litter box.
If you don't have the right kind of litter.
Oh, good. Excuse me.
Spoiler alert.
Emma must be talking about Boxy.
Yeah.
We're going to Tarantino this ad.
I want to thank Boxy for sponsoring the Majority Report. Boxy Pro has probiotics. I mean, this sort of seems like a fairly obvious idea
Yeah.
that maybe they didn't have the technology to do it before, or maybe nobody thought about it. But Boxy Pro has probiotics right in the litter that gobble up odor-causing bacteria and keep the box continuously odor-free. Yes, continuously. Not for 10 days or 20 days, but like infinite days of continual odor-freeness, if you will. Now, caveat, one, of course, you have to scoop. But Boxy's got amazing clumping power. It does it brilliantly. And then you got to top off the box. But if you do those two things, you're ready to stop giving your litter box the stink eye. Oh, and your cat won't smell anything either, as in no fake sense, which gives him or her one less reason to avoid the box. You've been using Boxy Cat now
Yes.
for what?
For a few months now. I guess I got it in the fall, and it's been phenomenal.
And you got two cats.
Yes, so need it. It's essential.
And they both go in the same
They
litter?
do. They're brothers. They like each other,
Oh, that's very sweet.
and they like the Boxy Cat.
And I guess the best thing that you can tell about is that you can't smell it. You don't even know it exists.
Exactly, and we're in small apartments. You need it. Boxy Cat's been very helpful.
I have, if you want to find out what the airflow in your apartment is, you get a cat.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
You will find out very quickly. If you're tired of switching litters, and you're looking for the one, get Boxy Cat at BOXIECAT.com. It's the last litter you'll ever switch to. Enjoy 30% off with the code TMR at boxycat.com/TMR. That's Boxycat, BOXIECAT.com/TMR. We will put the link in the podcast and YouTube description. Also, finding a doctor you actually feels like discovering a diamond in the rough. Sure, you want someone in network, you want someone nearby with open time slots, but let's be honest, that's just the beginning. You also deserve someone who listens, who makes you feel comfortable, explains things clearly, and still gives you a lollipop, even though you're a full-grown adult. I actually got some chocolate at my doctor's office the other day. Doesn't matter.
You're still thinking about that?
Yeah, I am. Your diamond in the rough doctor exists, and you can find them easily on ZocDoc. ZocDoc. ZocDoc is a free app and website that helps you find and book high-quality in-network doctors so you can find someone you love. We're talking about booking in-network appointments with more than 150,000 providers all across all 50 states. It doesn't matter whether you're looking for dermatology, dentistry, primary care, eye care, or one of the other 200 plus specialties offered on ZocDoc. You can easily search by specialty or symptom to build the care team that's right for you. You want to see a doctor in person? Great. You want to see a doctor over video call? No problem. You can do that too. When you're ready, you can see their real-time availability. Click to book instantly. No phone tag, no waiting around, no negotiating with someone working at the front desk and being put on hold. And then, I'm sorry, where were we? And then you go back. I mean, Appointments made through ZocDoc, super easy. You see all the available appointments. You click on the one you want. And usually they happen fast, typically within just 24 to 72 hours of booking. You can even score sometimes same-day appointments. I have found a dentist in an emergency on ZocDoc. Emma and Matt have both used it. And now I got my daughter using it because she's at school and she's got to find a doctor. I want to thank ZocDoc for sponsoring today's episode. Remember, it's free. Stop putting off those doctor's appointments. Go to ZocDoc.com/majority. Find and instantly book a doctor you love today. That's ZocDoc.com/majority. ZocDoc.com/majority. Thanks, ZocDoc, for sponsoring this message. We'll put the link in that information in the podcast and YouTube description. Quick break. When we come back, Matt Duss, Executive Vice President of the Center for International Policy. We are back. Sam Seder, Emma Vigeland on the Majority Report. Joining us now, Matt Duss, Executive Vice President of the Center for International Policy, co-host of the Undiplomatic podcast. Matt, welcome back to the program.
Thank you. Always great to be here.
You know, I don't ever remember a time where Davos seemed as I don't want to say important. I mean, but important in that, like, there was a lot of markers put down at Davos that in the past I've just associated with, like, multimillionaires being pissed that they don't get to go up to the lounge where the billionaires go. Like, right. You know, and this seemed really, really significant on a number of fronts.
Yeah.
Let's start. I mean, we were just going over this before we came on air. Carney's speech, Zelensky's speech, well, I guess Trump's speech, but also Jared Kushner's sort of like rollout of his vision for Gaza. Yeah. Let's start with Carney and Zelensky in some way, because they both had critiques of the existing world order, as it were. Mm-hmm. But Carney's was, and I would say also van der Leyen, I think that's her name, the head of the EU, alluded to this too. Let's play this clip from Carney, and then we will speak. This is when he quoted. I gotta get that. It's not on the sheet today. Oh, I thought we did have that. Sorry. We got it?
No. What number is it?
12. Yeah.
Sorry. Here is a clip from that speech.
1978, the Czech dissident Václav Havel, later president, wrote an essay called The Power of the Powerless. And in it, he asked a simple question: how did the communist system sustain itself? And his answer began with a greengrocer. Every morning, this shopkeeper places a sign in his window: "Workers of the world unite." He doesn't believe it. No one does. But he places the sign anyway to avoid trouble, to signal compliance, to get along. And because every shopkeeper on every street does the same, the system persists. Not through violence alone, but through the participation of ordinary people in rituals they privately know to be false. Havel called this living within a lie. The system's power comes not from its truth, but from everyone's willingness to perform as if it were true. And its fragility comes from the same source. When even one person stops performing, when the greengrocer removes his sign, the illusion begins to crack. Friends, it is time for companies and countries to take their signs down. For decades.
What's interesting, and I mean, it's unclear whether he perceives himself as that first person to take the sign down. And we should say the critique is, it seems to me, less about the economic systems that have grown up in the wake of World War II, but America's role as it's been played for a long time. He goes on to say, like, we espouse a rules-based international order, and when America broke those rules, we all sort of pretended like they didn't, even though we know they did. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, it was a landmark speech. There's no question. But let's unpack that reference a little bit, right? Because I think it's very interesting. That Havel essay, many of us read it in high school or college, graduate school, whatever. It is a really powerful essay. But as you asked the right question, okay, who is Carney here? Is America being put in the role of the communist empire, of the Soviet Union? It appears so. But what's really interesting to me is acknowledging that we've all been telling this lie, the rules-based order. It's time to admit that this is a lie and take our signs down. Now, there's a whole part of the world, the majority of the world, that has never had their sign up in the first place, that has always been clear that the rules-based order does not mean them. I mean, this has been a US and Europe, and mainly Western Europe-led order. So if I want to be cynical and yet truthful about what Carney was saying, he was like, we were all fine with this when we were kind of part of the privileged few. But now that we realize that we're on the wrong side of this protection racket, it's time for us to stand up and tell the truth. So good. Let's live in truth. Absolutely. I'm very much in favor of telling the truth and having an honest debate, but let's also realize that the timing in this is very convenient. There is much of the global South, or the global majority, that I'm sure has looked at this speech and it's about damn time. This has been our experience. Now that you are on the pointy end of it's time to tell the truth. So I think we could acknowledge both of those things.
Yeah, I mean, it's fascinating. And do me a favor, just with your mic, just keep that off your sweater.
Or
sorry.
if you're tapping the table or whatever.
But it really does feel like we just need to restructure. We just need to create a different sign, is really on some level what it feels like. But it does mark the end of an era. Now it appears that it does. But certainly, right, like this sign was not being hung up in Palestine, let's say,
right,
or among other places.
Or Indonesia, or Chile, or run down the list.
Yes,
It's a
Venezuela.
very, very
I mean,
long list. Venezuela,
yes, we could go on and on. And it does just seem like it's less, again, I guess, like an attack on a system, and more just sort of like the way that this system has been led and structured. It really is just basically saying, like, America is not what it was, and we got to stop pretending. Yeah. And this feels like this has been coming for 20 years at least, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, Iraq was, I think, where it became quite clear, it seems to me, that there was a creeping awareness of like this whole idea of the new world order in the wake of the fall of the Soviet Union. It didn't last very long.
Yeah, and that's, I do feel the need to mention that, Iraq was a very key moment in the kind of chain of events that I think led to the corrosion and now destruction of this order. And one of the prominent supporters of that invasion was, of course, Václav Havel. So just worth noting, a lot of the folks who felt, even Havel was among those who felt that, well, yes, this order, we have the right to do these things because we are acting out of these kind of purer motives in defiance of international norms and international law. And that has now, these are the results.
And in dragging Europe into America's wars also, that was significant there as well. And perhaps like in this acknowledgement of that break, we're basically Carney's is essentially saying, yeah, we wanted the economic benefits of kind of being on the side of the global hegemon and the driver of capital, but it's self-serving because we also see, like we were showing some data yesterday on the show, the United States is may have some growing GDP, but tech is very overvalued in what it's providing globally. China is much more efficient and is much more ahead technologically than the United States. So it's both that, Greenland was under threat, that this is being discussed now, the erosion of the international, but also like it's not as risky to cut ties with the United States because we are an empire on the decline economically.
I mean, I think there's some truth to that. I mean, your point about Greenland is also really important. I mean, for many of us, I mean, Gaza is where the rules-based order was buried. Greenland is just where Europe suddenly realized, as I said, they are now on the wrong side of the protection racket. Just this realization that for the longest time, Europe believed that they got to be part of the imperial core, and that came with special privileges. It is now clear to them that those privileges no longer obtain, or at least if they want to continue them, they're going to have to cough up a lot more tribute than has been expected in the past.
Isn't it also too that the idea, like, and I'm sure we must have had conversations to this effect over the course of the first Trump era, but if you're outside of the country and you're looking in to the country, I mean, the idea that Trump gets reelected does not speak to the stability of the United States. And, I wouldn't want to bet the next 10, 15, 20, 30, 50, 70 years of my country's economic future, national security future, whatever future it is, on the United States at this point, because it's over. And like as soon as like we elected Trump again and he did everything, and we're still, I mean, part of it, I'm sure they're looking at the Democrats and saying, I think if you look at the polling, you don't see the American public sort of lining up behind Trump at this point, but the opposition party has not gotten that memo
really
enough.
Not showing up. Exactly.
No. And so you're just like, there's no brakes on this train and it's careening off somewhere.
Yeah, I think that's right. And let's also, remember, I mean, they should have gotten the memo in 2016, but they were kind of lulled and sung back to sleep by Joe Biden, who came in and said, hey, America's back. We got past that weird anomaly. Let's just get back to business. America's back helping run the rules-based order. It's all good. Transatlantic
particularly
relationship.
NATO, right?
Yes, right.
I mean, that's like particularly on it. It's amazing how Biden was all in on this and Trump is completely reversing. Sorry.
Right. No. But that's right. But I also think, rather than taking, really, addressing some of the factors that gave rise to Trump and that are giving rise to these right-wing populist movements across democracies, especially in Europe, it was basically just like, all right, let's get back to, the kind of unipolar moment that Joe Biden was used to and that most of the people running his foreign policy were used to. And the Europeans were like, okay, we're really comfortable, operating in this way. So let's keep doing that. But now, as Sam said, there is no denying it.
There is a certain poetry that the guy who was the chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee for, I don't know, decades, I guess, in the Senate, and the guy whose whole shtick was foreign policy.
Right. Remember that speech? It was so impressive after the debate performance.
That was always his thing. I mean, he came in, the symmetry. I mean, he came in and replaced Fulbright not as chair, but Fulbright left that committee because he was primaried, in his words, by the Israel lobby at that time. And he comes in and takes that seat 54 years ago.
Right.
And then presides over essentially, like, maybe the car was tipping on the edge of the cliff, but he sort of pushed it over the edge.
No, I think that's right. Not only that, I mean, he was like the embodiment of the serious Washington foreign policy establishment, and the people around him, the best and brightest, the A team, is what everyone was told. And yet, you are right. There is some poetry to the fact that this was the team, this was the president who put the American-led rules-based order in its grave.
And we should say, or at least my thoughts on this are, this isn't necessarily a bad thing. Right. From the perspective of the ruling class in the United States, it might be. The U.S. hegemony, both, are projecting our foreign power is really just a function of protecting a specific class of people's assets in one form or another, or opportunities down the road. And it's quite possible that 10, 15, 20 years from now, without the specter of having to expend resources on those things. I mean, because the United States is fairly unique. Britain didn't have the resources that this country has. Right. I mean, just the natural resources, et cetera. So when their empire fell, it was not a soft landing in any respect, and there was not really the same. They couldn't be as isolated as we could, or they needed some of that power to project, to maintain in a way that I think the United States may not need as much. I mean, it's not going to work its way out itself. I mean, people are going to have to, but there's opportunity here. But certainly, this marks it feels to me, the easy place to mark an end of an era.
I agree with that. I mean, the fact that we are having an honest conversation, I think, is a positive. My own view of what the United States should try and do here is, a rules-based order, but for real. I mean, I think that is something that would actually benefit the United States, would benefit people around the world. What a concept. You're right. The United States still has a lot of advantages. We have resources. We have two huge oceans on either side of us. We have neighbors to our north and south who are peaceful and friendly, or at least they were friendly.
Mm-hmm. Right.
That may change. But there's still a lot to work with here, even though America's relative share of power is declining. But the era we're moving into, and Trump still has 3 more years to do this, is just an era of global mafia. I mean, that's really all it is.
100%.
Yeah.
And who knows where we'll be. And, we already see this deal that Canada has now signed with China. And it makes total sense for them to be hedging like this. But just the fact that our closest neighbor to the north, with whom we've had a extremely important relationship that we have completely taken for granted, now that Canada feels the need to hedge in this way, I think should be an enormous alarm bell.
But we're raising the military budget. I mean, that's the other thing is like when we're talking about, this is gangsterism. And that's, you can also see it as like, this is our Western hemisphere. We do whatever the hell you want. We want, and then, our vassal state Israel can commit genocide on our behalf or whatever. And then Russia, you do whatever the hell you want over there. And but we're still loading up on arms. Mm-hmm. And that's the scary thing here is that it's the retreat from international cooperation, but we are going to continue to be as militaristic as possible. And I think that we are a threat to the globe in that way.
I agree. I mean, I think this kind of global mafia is a threat to the globe. It's a threat to Americans. It's certainly a threat to communities outside our borders. We see this. We don't need to look any farther than Latin America for what's happening. But if you look at the national security strategy that came out at the beginning of December, it kind of lays this out. I mean, for a long time, Washington was super hyped up on great power competition. The first Trump administration laid that out as kind of the focus of U.S. foreign policy. The Biden administration certainly followed through on that. They changed it to strategic competition, but the focus on China, containing China, competing with China was the real obsession. Trump has kind of dialed that down a little bit, and it's more kind of a great power collusion, which is, as you said, this is our yard. We get to determine all outcomes here in the Western Hemisphere. And yes, Russia, by virtue of its power, gets to kind of determine its sphere of influence. Israel will be our sheriff in the Middle East that gets to do what it wants. We still have interests in Asia, but China will get some respect as, one of the families represented around the table. But the United States is still the top boss. And when we want to do something, we get to do it simply by virtue of the fact that we are militarily powerful.
Right. It's just, I can't remember the guy's name, but in Chicago, walking around the table with the bat, essentially. Capone walking around with a bat.
Right.
Talk just briefly. I mean, you served as Bernie Sanders' foreign policy advisor. Talk about like the relationship between what we're seeing simultaneously domestically with what we're seeing in terms of sort of like this mob boss mentality of carving up the world internationally. I mean, people, we're getting stuff like, how is it that these, wealthy elite can't see that it's not in their best interest down the road to, share the wealth or whatnot. And it's like, this is what we see in every repressive, very often developing countries now, some of them even more developed countries in the past. Like, we never question, why did Imelda Marcos have, 5,000 pairs of shoes? Like, how could she not, it's just, this is the nature of what they do.
Right. I mean, you get so powerful and you have no one to tell no, and you just lose control. You kind of lose touch with reality. That's sort of part of it. But it's also just an ethic of gain, of taking, of constant accumulation. And listen, I wish some of these fantastically wealthy people would think a bit more solidaristically. I mean, that might be the first time that's ever happened in history. I mean, we see this play out over and over again. But I think the way this connects to our domestic politics, and again, this is something that Bernie has talked about. We have a lot more, I think, Democrats talking about this now, whether it's AOC, Chris Murphy, a few others. Like, part of this is like reasserting democratic control over wealth and power. I mean, that's not going to solve all the problems, but the enormous influence and power that these fantastically wealthy individuals have over our politics, such that they can essentially obviate democratic control over our economic and political life. And this is a long-standing problem. Again, Trump is just the latest iteration of this corrosion. But that really gets at the core of the challenge right now. And I think this craziness we're seeing in foreign policy is in part a product of that.
The lack of democratic responsiveness to what the public is saying about, I mean, the genocide in Gaza is an example of this. You also have, there were dozens of Democrats that joined on to increase military spending in that vote. I believe that was yesterday. Stephen Semler, the pollster, made this point. 4% of Democratic voters want to increase military spending, and 70% of House Democrats just voted to increase military spending. I mean, and on the issue of Gaza, single-digit percentage points from back in August support Israel's military action. That is not proportionate to how the military action in Gaza. That is not proportionate to how the votes are tallied with the Democrats in the House and the Senate. And so, the Republicans are completely undemocratic. But this is like an overall problem, really, of also corruption and lobbying and money in politics that has completely separated how our leadership operates from public opinion as we call ourselves a democracy.
Right. I think that's absolutely right. It's about corruption. It's also about elite impunity. It's about the fact that time and time again, the powerful, the well-connected, the influential pay no price. And I think that's one of the things we have to look at. Why does Trump act this way? Why does Pete Hegseth act this way? Why do they act as if they won't face any consequences. Well, because they know very well they won't face any consequences. You know, if you want to kind of understand why Trump doesn't fear accountability, look at the guest list for Dick Cheney's funeral.
Right.
Okay. I'm sorry. We don't need for this audience to go through the list of offenses of Dick Cheney, whether the Iraq War, torture, kidnapping, you know, getting his Halliburton buddies into Iraq to take money out by the tens of billions of U.S. taxpayer dollars. And 20 years later, ex-presidents, first ladies, senators, members of Congress, former cabinet secretaries line up to pay their respects.
MSNBC hosts.
That is elite impunity. That is corruption.
Yeah. And the irony is, I think like Carney's just saying, we just need a different set of elites. Like, I mean, at the end of the day, right? I mean, Carney's not saying we need a more democratic vision for the world. It's just that like the leaders that we've had up to this point, they're hollowed out now, and we need to figure out another strategy. Now, meanwhile, Zelensky gave a speech where he was basically saying that like Europe is also not rising to the moment in many respects. You know, he's talking obviously from a perspective of Europe being not being aggressive, I think, enough in dealing with what he perceives to be the Russian threat. And he said something to the fact that you send 15 people to Greenland. You don't seem like you're willing to guard, you know, that country. I happen to think actually like the 15 people made it a little bit more complicated. I think you know, had Trump sent in 500 troops 3 weeks ago, I think what are they going to do at that point? And I think that was sort of like why they just put nominally some people there so that it made it look like, but the Greenland thing seems to have stopped just because he was being disciplined by the bond market. And again, like, I mean, it was a classic Taco Trump. I heard this story about The Apprentice. And I know this story is true. I can't be too explicit about how I heard this story because the people involved, but Trump wanted to have, what's her name on?
Stormy
Daniels on the show. He wanted to have Stormy Daniels on the show.
While they were having an affair.
He had expressed this to her.
Right.
She was asking people, do you think I'm going to get on? And he was bringing it up with the ABC executives, and they didn't know what to do. So finally what they did is they basically took a sheet of paper and wrote down a number which they projected to be what they were going to lose in advertising revenue for the show. Yeah. And he as an EP, like he participated in that. They put it on his desk. They went into a meeting and they just put it on his desk, and he looked at it. He just saw this and he goes, oh, rolls it up, throws it away, never talks about it again. He had been talking about it for months and months and months, but as soon as he saw he was going to lose $1, he was like, forget it. And I sort of like, that's what we keep seeing playing over and over again.
Right. So you want to send Stormy Daniels to Greenland is what you're...
I mean, the idea is if this guy thinks he's going to lose a buck in some fashion, or it's going to cost somebody, he's done. None of this stuff has been like some type of principled ideological...
Well, I think it's been clear it's not principled. I mean, I think, you know, what you said makes sense. There's also people have been asking, what's going on here? And for me, it's like this temptation to try and impose some kind of strategic logic. It's very much that Greenland is big. And he looked at a map and he was like, damn, Greenland's big. I would love for the US to have it. But it's also like he does this. He just throws this stuff out there and everyone spends a week or 2 weeks running around like crazy trying to figure out what we're going to do. And then he dials it back. When he dials it back, the reasons he dials it back, I think what you're saying helps explain it. But there's also a whole bunch of other things that he's under pressure about that we've not been talking about while we've all been kind of freaking out about Greenland. We can't forget that either.
Well, he's just announced today, and people knew this, but I think that we have a aircraft carrier headed to position itself somewhere. I can't recall where exactly it was, but presumably to give him the option to decide whether he wants to attack Iran or not. And ostensibly this is because Iran has been engaged in a bloody put down of they've killed at least now 5,000. I've heard numbers up to 20,000 of protesters. And ostensibly, I guess that's why Trump is thinking about doing this.
Because he cares
Trump,
about protesters.
Right, Trump is, like, always supports human rights and democracy, and is always willing to bring the United States in on the side of these principles everywhere.
So what is going on with it? Like, what is he doing it just for that? Like to as a distraction, or to pretend like he's involved in this, or is it? How tied is it into the idea that Jared Kushner is at Davos, basically going like, "Here's our plan for Gaza. We're gonna turn it into Miami Beach." And we're going to have essentially concentration camps of Palestinians who, we're going to allow certain ones of them to come and work as like busboys.
And all of this reconstruction will be through our shell organizations, of course, and those of our partners. And it's just this absolutely, towering grift. And how Iran fits into this, he certainly came around. We saw this in June after a massive lobbying campaign by Netanyahu and Netanyahu's allies in Washington, people like Lindsey Graham. He went in and, just bombed for a few days, declared victory. And as he sees it, that actually was a political benefit for him. I mean, he loves to declare victory. The polling doesn't show that. And the polling doesn't show that in Venezuela, by the way, either, which by agree or disagree with it, I disagree with it. I think it was completely illegal and should not have been done. But, tactically, it was an impressively executed raid that he received no polling bump for, which I do think is notable. But yet...
But part of the reason why is because people are just like, why did we do that?
Yeah. How does this make,
it's not, it doesn't, there was not, any of the groundwork set up to that 90% of the American public does not know the name Maduro. And the idea that like, oh, great. Now somebody in Qatar is getting Venezuelan oil money. Like what?
So I think with Iran now, he threatened, he just threatened for whatever reason the Iranian government, against don't be killing protesters, which they went ahead and did. And now that they unfortunately seem to have quelled the protests once again through the massive application of violence. He is really, he's got people in his ear like Lindsey Graham and these others who are like, oh, you made a threat, you need to follow through. It'd be bad for your credibility. But there's also in the intervening weeks, we saw reports from, Arab governments in the region, including some very close to Trump. They don't want a new war in the region. Netanyahu, depending on what kind of reporting you believe, he also wanted to wait in part to get more U.S. assets in the region to help with the very likely Iranian response in terms of missiles and drones being fired back at Israel. So it does seem like those assets are now in place should Trump, choose to strike. But even, a few weeks ago when the protests were much larger, the kind of argument for doing it, if you're really interested in helping in the protesters, was extremely weak. There's like no path to show me how striking Iran actually helps the protesters win and democracy to come to Iran. There's really no way it would do that. It's just, a way to punish the Iranian government for people who've always been trying to get up a conflict between the U.S. and Iran.
But for Netanyahu's purposes here, a military buildup of U.S. aircrafts in the region, he probably sees this as another way to manipulate Donald Trump once again, because Iran does have the capability to strike back at Israel. They do. And if they do significant damage, and there are U.S. aircraft carriers in the region, and you have the Stephen Millers, who's, by the way, a rabid Zionist and anti-Palestinian racist, in his ear saying, well, you got to look strong here, too. What are you going to do, take that lying down? I mean, that's my fear here, I'm very pessimistic on this casual Friday.
Right. That's right. I would add a thing here is that Iran has... having spoken to a number of Israeli analysts, they know that Iran has actually been able to reconstitute their ballistic missile capability faster than was expected. They have not fully done it, but it is now, very formidable again. So part of this is just Netanyahu wanting the United States to help him go in and mow the lawn again. That's an offensive term. I hate using it, but that is how they refer to it. This is their policy for Gaza for many years. When we see Hamas or Islamic Jihad or some of these other factions getting too powerful, we go in, we do a bunch of strikes, we kill a bunch of people, we destroy a bunch of rocket facilities, we mow the lawn, and then we restore a kind of status quo that we're comfortable with. And I think that's part of what's going on with Netanyahu here.
I guess lastly, I mean, do you think like we are like the Venezuela thing is done? I mean, that we have Delcy Rodriguez basically like, I'm gonna pay you off, and you know, she'll get who knows, I imagine some benefit out of it. I don't know what kind it would be, you know, but for all we know, maybe she gets cash from it. Maybe she just keeps the United States from invading Venezuela, although that seems absurd. But it feels like another one of those situations where Trump went in there because, you know, maybe Scott Bessent's the hedge fund buddy needed some cash, and boom, we did that. We have the you know, the loan terms that we want now, and we've just bumped ahead to being first creditor. And then he just walks away and says, mission accomplished. I got rid of Maduro. And like I say, most Americans, I don't even think we're paying attention to. Okay. And you can't see anything. And that's it. We're done. It's just on to the next thing.
Right. I mean, I think that's right. But, you know, what's maddening here, and this is, you know, everything is not Iraq, but one of the ways in which Venezuela did remind me of Iraq is that there was like a buffet of arguments for different audiences. And you can pick the one that is most tasty to you, whether it's the oil, whether it's immigration, whether it's drugs, whether it's Cuba. And, you know, for Marco Rubio, it's definitely Cuba. Now, he is someone who is clearly disappointed that we didn't go all the way, that we kind of just did a regime decapitation. But if the new Rodriguez government is going to kind of really diminish support for Cuba, which it seems that they could be, that could satisfy his purpose as well. But in the longer term, you know, it just, as you said, it just seems like we did this operation and we're going to leave this government in place, essentially.
Is there anything else that we should touch on? I mean, it's a huge, crappy world right now, and I don't want to leave anything. I don't want to leave anything on the table, as it were.
Well, I have just a slight. Maybe this opens us up just to turn us domestically a little bit. Like, we're talking about Iraq so much. We open our discussion speaking about the Iraq War and that being really where this all corroded. I mean, domestically, DHS, ICE. You know, it all traces back to the war on terror, and I mean, it's incredible to see how much of the you know, the erosion of civil liberties and the brutality of both abroad and home is all embedded in the infrastructure that came out of the war on terror.
Yeah, and these guys walking around in this tactical gear, wearing desert camo in Minnesota. I mean, what? You know, and this has been a problem with police forces long before now. You've got, I mean, you know, and watching them just like break into these homes. I mean, there was this guy that it was in the news, you know, over the past week, this older guy who was dragged out in the middle of sub-zero weather in his underwear. Turned out a complete misidentification. This is, you know, an occupation.
And as we learn more, too, about the detention part of it, I think it's going to be even more disturbing. Matt Duss, thanks.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Really sorry.
Appreciate you coming on. Executive Vice President of the Center for International Policy, co-host of the Undiplomatic podcast. We'll put links to both of those in our podcast and YouTube description. Thanks, Matt. Really appreciate it.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Well, don't know what else to say about that. We're going to be talking about. I want to take some calls from Minnesota again today in the fun half, as there's an ongoing strike there. Also, and maybe we'll play a clip from this PBS report. The way what's going on at these detention centers, if we ever really get it widely exposed, I think are going to be just like crimes against humanity. I've heard reports of a detention center up in New Hampshire where not only are they feeding people like, just the bare minimum, some of it's like rotted food, et cetera, but people are in incredibly, they're not providing clothes or warmth. There's no heat on in these facilities. And they're not allowing people blankets or any type of clothes. The whole idea seems to be to take people who are not actually undocumented, people who are in process of maybe refugee status, maybe asylum proceedings, whatever proceedings they're in the midst of, which means that they are not here illegally. They are literally here within the legal process. Maybe this also applies to even people who are here without documentation. And the idea is that they are essentially attempting to torture them to the point where people give up their claims for asylum, for refugee status, or in pursuit of whatever, their green card, or in pursuit of their citizenship, whatever it is.
It's a concentration. They're concentration camps. They're not paying. They haven't paid for their medical care since October. There's over 70,000 people detained. What does that mean? They just stopped. You think 70,000 people have no health issues?
And let's be clear. Again, this is an agency that has received the biggest bump in funding, one that propelled it to a budget larger than many countries' military. So this is not for lack of money. This is a willful policy choice to essentially torture these people.
I just want to be fair and say DHS has tweeted out denials of all of this.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Tony
Gotta
Two
hear both
Cuts.
sides. Yeah, Doka pill.
It's Whiskey Fridays here, ladies and gentlemen.
I mean, maybe. I don't even like whiskey, and I'm like, oh, okay, maybe.
Yeah,
maybe.
what's the poly market on mass graves at these places?
Oh yeah, well.
All right. Well, let's. What should we do? Should we do?
You want to play this Minneapolis thing before the fun half? This is just a scene here from Sarah Lazar, editor and reporter at Workday magazine. She's on the scene here, and looks like clergy protesting at the airport, and I believe there were some arrests later in here. But here are them singing about abducted people from ICE.
Everybody's got a right to vote. Everybody's got a right to vote. And before this campaign fails, we'll all go down to jail. Everybody's got a right to live. Everybody's got.
That's lovely.
A lot of people not going to work, not going to school, not shopping today in Minnesota. Also freezing cold there, obviously.
I think I saw -8 was the real feel they're arresting. We'll play this in the fun half too, but the woman who was, we played the footage of in the church that Don Lemon took.
Yep.
Where they were disrupting a church service because one of the pastors there is a literal ICE agent.
Despicable.
And the Trump administration wanted Don Lemon to be arrested. You know, the
judge has refused.
Judge refused, but they did arrest the woman who's a pastor, and she's a black woman. They, as of this morning, she's still in detention, and they digitally altered an image.
Do we have the images of that?
Yeah, I mean, the image is in the video. Do you want to just play this? I mean, I was listening to this morning, just my blood boiling. This is, they were trying to get her on this morning. Her name is Namika Levy Armstrong.
Nakima.
No, sorry, Nakima. And this is her lawyer who was on Democracy Now! This morning explaining how this arrest went down.
Well, the arrest was a horrible ordeal. She was and some other people in her group were staying in a hotel. A group of FBI and Homeland Security agents busted into the hotel the night before her arrest, roughed people up. They were thrown out by the management. Later on at 3 a.m, someone left Nikema Levy Armstrong's room. The the agents tackled her violently and took her to a detention facility before they realized that she wasn't Nikema Levy Armstrong. So she was obviously terrified about turning herself in. A legal team, including myself, went to the hotel that morning. We reached out to agents to try to arrange for her to turn herself in voluntarily at the federal courthouse, which was only about 6 blocks away. They put the U.S. attorney for the District of Minnesota, a Trump appointee, Dan Rosen, he called me himself. I made my request to him. He said it was very reasonable and he was just going to call me back in a few minutes with the specific logistics. Then he calls back and says, oh, we're not going to let her turn herself in. We need to arrest her at the hotel. So she needs to voluntarily leave the hotel room and turn herself in. So after he talked to his bosses in D.C., he had completely reneged on his commitment. They then sent agents up there to the hotel room to arrest her. One of the agents was filming the arrest. As they put her in handcuffs, he was filming it on his cell phone. I've never seen anything like that. They have body cameras. This was completely unprofessional. He said he was just doing it because of instructions, and he promised it wasn't going to go on Twitter. Nevertheless, it went on Twitter. It went on the Department of Justice's Twitter, so this was their trophy. And then, as you said, the White House subsequently altered the video to make it look like she was crying. I observed the whole arrest. She was dignified, rational, calm, and reasonable the whole time. It just shows the complete political motivation of the government in making this a circus. This has nothing to do with enforcing the law. It has nothing to do with protecting anyone's religious rights. It's all about, frankly, just about fascism. And in a fascist...
I don't know what else there is to add on that. I mean, they are manipulating this. The whole thing was a setup.
Yes.
And I would just say the issue here isn't that a mascot disrupted. The issue is that an ICE director is the pastor and he's supporting the active ongoing occupation of that community. That's not peacefully worshiping, in my opinion.
And he explained at another point in the interview, the lawyer, that they're basically charging her with a civil rights era law that was about saying that she was basically infringing upon the civil rights of the worshipers in the church as a pastor herself.
And I'd just like to also emphasize, it's a Southern Baptist church. It's in Minnesota, interesting. But just people should know the Southern was added because the church split because a lot of the Southern Baptists wanted to continue supporting slavery. In the 90s, they apologized for all that. 5 years ago, they turned back on that and said, there's too much CRT, too much of this white guilt stuff going on. Young people that go to that church should know that about the church, because I saw it on Reddit. A lot of people had no idea where the Southern comes from in Southern Baptist. People should know about this stuff. It's time for a little bit of sunlight to disinfect some of these spaces.
All right, we're going to head into the fun half, but Stars Pawn says, can you recommend where we could donate to help people fight, survive in Minnesota? If you go to standwithminnesota.com, I believe there's a couple of places. They actually have a very long list of places where you can donate. So standwithminnesota.com.
Mutual aid. Yep. You have rent. There's rent relief, food support, mutual aid. We'll put a link to that down below.
All right, folks. We're going to head into the fun half. Before we do, just a reminder, you can support the show by becoming a member. Go to jointhemajorityreport.com. Help this show survive and thrive. And when you do, you not only get the free show free of commercials, but you also get to IM us in the fun half, and sometimes even in the non-fun half, we read the IMs. Also, justcoffee.coop, fair trade coffee, hot chocolate. It's co-op in Madison, Wisconsin. They have a Majority Report blend that you can get. You get 10% off with the coupon code majority, but they have all sorts of coffees there. It's a co-op. They're great movement partners out there in Madison. Check them out. They do great by their providers and whatnot. And also, just a reminder, AM Quickie, amquickie.com. If you read the American Prospect, you will see that Whitney Wimbish is out there, been talking to folks in Minnesota, and half the time you get her writing in the AM Quickie. The other half, Corey Pine, also a great writer, every day in your mailbox for a couple of bucks, free 3 days a week, amquickie.com. Matt, what's happening in the Matt Leckian media universe?
Yeah, this morning over on the Jacobin show, we had a conversation with Hassan that we recorded yesterday before he took off to Minneapolis, where he is going to be streaming from today. So check that out. We talk about, among other things, we compare the democratic responsiveness of both Chuck Schumer and Mohammed bin Salman, and you'll be surprised at who comes out on top.
Maybe we won't be.
All right, folks. Quick break, fun half.
3 months from now, 6 months from now, 9 months from now, and I don't think it's going to be the same as it looks like in 6 months from now, and I don't know if it's necessarily going to be better 6 months from now than it is 3 months from now, but I think around 18 months out, we're going to look back and go like, wow. What? What is that going on? It's nuts. Wait a second. Hold on for a second.
The Majority Report.
Emma, welcome to the program.
Hey.
Matt. What is up, everyone? Nomi Key.
You did it. Let's go, Brandon.
Let's go, Brandon. Bradley, you want to say hello?
Sorry to disappoint everyone. I'm just a random guy.
It's all the boys today.
Fundamentally false.
No, I'm sorry. Women's
Stop talking for a second and let me finish.
Where is this coming from, dude?
But dude, you want to smoke this 7A?
Yes.
Hi, me? This me?
Yes.
Is this me?
Is it me?
It is you.
Is this me? Hello? Is this me?
I think it is you. Who is you? No sound. Every single freaking day. What's on your mind?
sports.
We can discuss free markets and we can discuss capitalism.
I'm gonna go throw up.
Libertarians. They're so stupid, though. Common sense says, of course.
Gobbledygook.
We fucking nailed him.
So what's 79 plus 21?
Challenge met.
I'm positively quivering.
I believe 96, I want to say. 857-210-3501. 1 half. 3 8s.
9/11, for instance.
$3,400, $1,900.
6, 5, 4, $3 trillion sold. It's a zero-sum game.
Actually, you're making me think less of it.
But let me say this. Poop.
You can call it satire. Sam goes, it's satire.
On top of it all,
Yeah.
my favorite part about you is just like every day, all day, like everything you do.
Without a doubt. Hey, buddy, we see you. All right, folks.
It's just the week being weeded out, obviously.
Yeah, sun's out, guns out. I don't know.
But you should know.
People just don't like to entertain ideas anymore.
I have a question. Who cares?
Our chat is enabled, folks.
I love it.
I do love that.
Look, gotta jump. Gotta be quick. I gotta jump.
I'm losing it, bro.
2 o'clock. We're already late, and the guy's being a dick. So screw him. Sent to a gulag?
Outrageous.
Like, what is wrong with you?
Love you, bye.
Love you. Bye-bye. We are back, folks. Fun half. We're going to do our best. We're going to do our best. And what better way than to start off a fun half with some comedy, ladies and gentlemen.
It's like legalized comedy.
It is legal again, but if there has ever been a better example of why just because something's legal, it should be often regulated. This is a prime example of why we need regulation when it comes to comedy. Now, to be fair, this is from Davos, so it's not on U.S. grounds. So U.S. regulations regarding comedy would not apply.
But the EU has some pretty stringent ones.
But the EU, you would imagine, I can't even with the cultural divide, I can't imagine that the EU would not look at
I've actually done stand-up in Switzerland, and I think this is probably right down their alley.
Oh, you think? Okay, well,
as far as their sense of humor.
All right, so fair.
It could be an act of civil disobedience here for him to
That's
be
right.
so funny
Yeah, well,
in Europe.
Here we go. Here is Elon Musk being interviewed by somebody. Really, this guy may end up in Wikipedia just for actually being present on stage when this happened.
It's hilarious how Elon's hairline is Benjamin Buttoning, but nice work done.
I heard about the formation of the Peace Summit, and I was like, is that PIEC? A little piece of Greenland, a little piece of Venezuela. we got one. All we want is peace.
Okay, now
It's good to laugh
before we
the
get to the development of the actual substance of the joke, let's look at the delivery. One of my favorite parts of this is actually the host showing what a bootlicker he is by laughing when he clearly could not have known what Musk was getting at this point, because this is Musk's sort of like ham-fisted way of setting up this joke. So just watch the host laughs more as he goes, "Oh, I thought it was PIECE," which of course is like, okay, all right, well, yeah, I know. I mean,
You don't like homonym-related humor?
right? This, the classic homonym mistake.
Norm Macdonald has a good one with "Bored of the Dance," but
Yeah, I had the same thing when someone offered me the pear dessert, and I was like, why would I need two of them? I'll just take one. PEAR. Now watch the host here. Watch this.
I heard about the formation of the Peace Summit, and I was like, is that PIEC? A little piece of Greenland, a little piece of Venezuela. we got one. All we want is peace.
Yeah, all we want is peace. The thing is, he was so excited to tell this joke that it does seem to have come completely out of nowhere.
Well, he looked him right in the eye and was like, "You gonna laugh?" I wish that guy just was like, because then Elon couldn't have gone to explaining it, right? If he is almost like he needed permission to go to explain it with the guy's laughter.
He gets
right?
so excited when the guy laughs. He's
I know.
He's so happy.
Now, you probably asking like, wow, how does a genius like this develop this type of humor? I mean, obviously, like he's really, very, very clever stuff.
He's a coder. He cracked the code.
He cracked the code. Here is one possible way in which he developed this joke. Do we have the clip? What number is it?
Here it is.
Yes, this is a clip from the Mel Brooks film. What was it?
To Be or Not.
To Be or Not to Be. Madeline Kahn. They played a traveling. It's sort of like that. We were just talking about that show the other day, actually. Or like they play a theater troupe during the war.
Yeah.
And during the first war. And here is Mel Brooks. This is not from the producers, although you could certainly see like the inspiration for maybe Springtime from Hitler here.
I would say as a Jewish veteran of World War II, Mel Brooks probably has a lot of Nazi jokes throughout his whole career.
Now,
Fair.
Now, let's play this, but I want you to keep an open mind here, because Elon Musk is such a genius. Maybe he has built a time travel machine that he hasn't told anybody about. He existed. This movie is at least like 30 years old, 40 years old. Yeah, 40 years old now.
Evan in South Africa.
It's quite possible Elon Musk went back in time and inspired Mel Brooks.
I don't want war. All I want is peace. 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 A little piece of Poland, a little piece of France, a little piece of Portugal and Austria perchance.
Okay, I think you get it.
Two great tellings of a wonderful joke.
Yeah, there's different ways. It's all about delivery.
We're being kind of mean here, because remember when he went on stage with Dave Chappelle and the whole of San Francisco booed him off and
Said I'm Rick, bitch.
Yeah, right. And didn't he have some sort of like mental breakdown after that? It was too emotionally difficult for him. So we're kind of re-traumatizing him here by even engaging in this gutter mockery.
Now, here's the question. Do you think he actually saw this movie?
Yes. He saw it and identified 100% with
Spaceballs.
the Nazis.
Yeah,
That's why he confirmed it to
that's what I
members.
was thinking. Yes, I was thinking
100%.
like, I wonder if this is like porn for him. I wonder like how many times he masturbated to this movie when seeing Mel Brooks as Hitler there.
He's the type of guy who like how guys watched like Wall Street and
Wolf
thought
of
it would
Wall
be
Street.
cool.
Or Colbert, and we're like,
oh, this is awesome.
He's great.
Yeah,
He
that's
really gets
exactly
it.
100%.
No idea that it
other
was a
explanation.
joke.
Tony Soprano's really cool. And I want to be just like Don Draper. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's almost wish fulfillment, getting to dress up and act like a Nazi.
He did it at the president's inauguration.
Mhm.
And we still don't have any more extra money. Like
That was another punchline of his.
He's so good.
Does he
Kind of like a Bob Newhart delivery, wouldn't you say, Sam? Like a little kind of stuttered.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Yes. He's showing like you gives you the opportunity to see what's going on internally.
It makes it feel real and in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
One of the things you want to do when you're delivering a joke is not to make it too polished, because then people think like, oh wait, that's not off
Right.
the top of the head.
What's he, a professional?
Yeah, exactly.
You're saying Elon's humanizing. When I think of him, I think of how human that guy is.
And relatable.
And
yeah.
relatable.
Totally. RELATEBLE. Right.
Remember, let that sink in.
What's that?
Oh yeah, he had the sink.
Let that sink in, and he went to Twitter headquarters with a sink.
With a sink. Let that.
Oh my God,
sink
he
in.
really is obsessed with homonyms.
Yes. Yeah, no puns.
That's
are,
a pun.
Yeah, that's all it gets is puns.
Oh. Is it a pun?
Yeah.
It's sort of both.
Oh, I guess, yeah.
The hominin would be more is the
Let
pear
that
pear.
sink in, and then he brought a sink in.
Yeah, it's a hominin too.
Is it a hominin?
Hominin. Two words have the same spelling and pronunciation.
I think you're both right. My parents.
Oh yeah,
divorced.
let that sink in as a verb and as the noun. Okay, all right.
Let the sink
I'm
in.
sorry, comedy genius.
Yeah, I mean,
over
look,
here.
humor's pretty advanced. Some people can't get advanced.
Yeah, I'm
comedy.
sorry. I couldn't keep up with that.
I'm just not.
It's still a pun, though.
You're just not on my level in terms of.
You're seeing
Scanning.
multi-dimensional.
Yeah, I mean.
What number is this here?
17.
Oh, okay. Now, folks, I need to check my Donald Trump period calendar that I have here on my phone. I don't think he's due. This is what's interesting.
Is he ovulating?
Seems like the half-life is getting a little bit shorter on these things.
Where is? Let's see. I got to go back and I got to find this. Let's play this clip, and you'll see why we're.
I think it's usually like the 10th or
It's
the
usually
8th.
earlier in the month. Like
Yeah.
like I had him down as the 5th. So now let's be clear. I don't know what the analog would be to an ovulation, unless maybe like I don't know how IVF works, but maybe he's getting he's got to double up because we are exactly halfway through, I think, his cycle.
I don't think it perfectly maps onto a woman's period cycle because it's more of a deteroration.
Yeah, why would it?
Ovulation, he should be at his peak in the middle of the two cycles. If this is what we're talking about.
I had him on the 5th and juiced not until February 2nd. So we are literally right in between practically. Like 2 days ago would have been right in between.
Exactly.
So farmers happy, and that makes me happy. Thank you very much, everybody.
We saw the bruising on your hand. Are you okay?
Very good. I clipped it on the table. So I put a little, what do they call it, cream on it. But I clipped it. I would say take aspirin if you like your heart, but don't take aspirin if you don't want to have a little bruising. You know, if you take I take the big aspirin. And when you take the big aspirin, they tell you you're bruised. The doctor said, you don't have to take that, sir. You're very healthy. I said, I'm not taking any chances. So anyway, but that's one of the side effects of taking aspirin. Thank you very much, everybody.
Wow, they've really worked that lie. I mean, people were wondering when he came out and said that he was taking double dose of aspirin, despite the fact that it is no longer considered healthy for people over the age of 70 to take aspirin like that as a prophylactic. People would do it, without getting a heart attack. To prevent getting a heart attack, you take like baby aspirin. And it came out in supposedly his last exam that he was double dosing the aspirin. And we had all those things where they said, no, why would he be doing that? And he's not. He's telling the lie to justify the bruising. What does it mean? I clipped it on my desk.
He's too far gone to even do the lie.
Oh, I forgot. We're doing the whole aspirin thing.
Did he clip it or was it aspirin?
Right.
You're more likely to get bruised from clipping on the desk.
Your blood is all
because
thin.
your blood is thin.
Well, because remember, this was the quote to the Wall Street Journal. They say aspirin is good for thinning out the blood, and I don't want thick blood pouring through my heart. I want nice, thin blood.
He's in a great mindset.
I want
now.
nice,
but they say
nice, thin blood pouring through my heart. Does that make sense?
Well, they used to take it as a way of potentially, if you had any type of like arterial disease, like calcification in there. But they don't recommend it anymore because your blood gets too thin and it's problematic if you're over the age of 70. So I think this is just his way. They came up with a lie, and this is the lie that they're using to justify why he's getting treated. And it appears now like, I wonder if he's doing double doses. Like, we got to check on February 5th. We're around there.
But this is a different hand. Can we show the bruise?
Yeah.
There it is. Go to the next one. I feel like there's better photos of it.
Wow, that's quite a clip.
Yeah.
That's quite a
if
clip.
You clip, what are you doing walking around your desk so fast and not being coordinated enough to like not smack it into the side of it?
Maybe he
like
backhanded JD Vance in the face.
It is also amazing that clipping keeps happening right on that main vein. That it's just like when you're a kid and you've got a scrape on your knee and it keeps you keep hitting that knee there.
Just my luck.
Let's just, hope that it recovers quickly and that.
And I think he's right that his doctors don't really know what they're talking about.
What do you mean?
Yeah.
They don't know.
They don't know. He knows. He knows everything.
Every American will soon receive their own MedBed card.
RFK was on Katie Miller's podcast, and he said that Donald Trump has the constitution of a deity.
Did he say that? I know he said like the most. We were looking at his health records, and he has so much testosterone that we actually hooked him up via intravenous into our bodies.
Yeah, we're draining testosterone out of him.
We suckle on his chest to actually suckle testosterone out of his nipples.
It's the worst thing I've ever pictured.
We don't have to discuss it.
No.
Both Dr. Oz and I, and sometimes we look at each other as we're suckling President Trump and do a high five.
Matt just went to the bathroom to throw up.
I'd prefer he pump, but he forces us to latch.
Oh my God.
The nectar of the gods.
Oh my God.
Suckle for 3 minutes, and then I can do 175 push-ups.
His milk just tastes like Coca-Cola.
but with actual cane sugar.
Mexican Coke. Mexican Coke.
Oh boy. Oh gosh. Matt vomited.
Do you want us to repeat what you missed, Matt?
Yeah.
Tim Pryor says, too far, Brian. Oh my God. Duber says, how many viewers have you lost with this Trump milk ban? I can't even see anymore. We're everywhere, and they are both in baby bibs.
Oh my God.
The Jordan Peterson sort of a milking thing.
APAC Shakur, Emma, does MR have a mental health plan included? You need to demand one at contract renewal time.
It's kind of like that. What it is Sam gives us free tallow, and we cook with tallow, and that's how we stay safe.
Yes. Definitely works. We're trying to do some stuff that's a little bit,
fun,
upbeat.
Yeah.
We got one more. No, the midterm one, I think, is the only one that's upbeat at that point.
We also, AOC with the CVS guy was pretty good too. Yeah.
This is at the beginning of the year, maybe it was like 3/4 of the way through the year, the Republicans decided that they were going to do mid-decade redistricting. Now, generally, there's no redistricting until the census numbers come out at every decade. This is called for in the Constitution. And then you get a sense of how many people are going to be represented. Has one state or one district lost numbers in such a way that we need to sort of balance it out. Also the Electoral College as well. But Republicans want desperately to maintain control of the House. And so they launched this plan promoted by the White House, starting in Texas, to redistrict in Texas and pick up more seats by gerrymander and really aggressive gerrymandering.
Which they've already engaged in. We should also be clear that the Democrats have in many ways for years unilaterally disarmed on this issue and allowed for Republican states to gerrymander in ways that give them an outsized advantage.
It really started in the 2010 census. There was a guy, the godfather of gerrymander, a Republican, who had developed plans to gerrymander, and they were able to do so with a lot more precision because all the data had become computerized and digitized. And so you were able to, down to the person, create new lines. And in fact, when this guy died, his estranged daughter released these files about this Republican strategist. And it showed that what took place, particularly also during the, in addition to all his files about the gerrymander, it also showed that he had suggested to the Department of Justice to lie as a way of justifying redistricting during that took place in 2020. And so we're still seeing sort of like the fallout from this. However, it seems that the Keystone cops in charge of this miscalculated, and we have entered an era where, at the very least, Democrats responded. And part of like the Republican strategy has always been Democrats are always not going to respond in kind. But it turns out it didn't work out that way.
Yeah, okay. You know, Donald Trump and the Republicans started this redistricting fight, but it looks like that the Democrats are going to finish them off, because what are we talking about? What's the most likely outcome? Most likely House seat gain from mid-decade redistricting. You mentioned back in the summer of 2025, it started in Texas. It looked like Republicans, the most likely that they were going to get nationwide was 5 seats. But today, at this point, the most likely outcome is Democrats actually gaining from the mid-decade redistricting battle. Now, this isn't about right. It's an approximation. I wouldn't be surprised if it's tied. I wouldn't be surprised if Democrats actually gain 2 or 3 seats from the mid-decade redistricting battle. But the bottom line is this. It started out as a plus for Republicans, and now it looks like the Democrats have fought back in a major way. It looks like it's going to be a plus for them nationwide.
Which states are you thinking are going to present more advantage for one party over another?
Yeah, okay. So, right. You know, it's basic mathematics, right? You know, likely redistricting gains for 2026. California, of course, Gavin Newsom, 5 seats for the Democrats. Utah, court ruling there, 1 seat. And then it basically evens out on the Republican side, right? Maybe a 4-seat gain from Texas. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if that was, in fact, 3, only 3, not the 5 we thought it was going to start out with. Again, taking away seats from the Republicans nationwide. 1 in North Carolina, 1 in Ohio. Basically even, but even in terms of the likely, I think it's more likely than not that Democrats are going to be on the plus side of this equation when you add up the different states.
What other states are you watching, though, for a possible, to impact this outcome?
Yeah, okay. What about the potential gains? The potential gains. You know, there was a big ruling in New York court yesterday. It could be Democrats gain a seat there. This is potential. Maryland may be a seat there. It may redistrict and put an 8-0 map instead of the 7-1 currently. How about 3 seats in the Commonwealth of Virginia? You're looking at 5 on this side, then maybe 3 in Florida for Republicans, 1 in Missouri. But again, here, what are we talking about? We're talking about 5 versus 4 on the GOP side, 5 on the Democrat side. You just start adding the states up over and over and over again. And what you see is what you see at the top here, which is the most likely outcome at this point is Democrats, not Republicans, gaining from redistricting. What a change. If you said to me last summer, Democrats more likely to gain than Republicans, I wouldn't buy it. But again, as I said at the start, Donald Trump and the Republicans started this mid-decade redistricting war, but it looks like Democrats are going to finish them off.
Honestly, this is the like one of the first times I can remember in 20 years where Democrats have addressed like what Republicans have done on a structural or process level and beat them at their own game.
Well, I mean, the advantage was always on the Democrat side if they chose to take it, because the Republicans are a minoritarian party. I mean, their ideas aren't popular. The areas of the country that they represent are less populous than the areas of the country that Democrats represent. They just have chosen, for the most part, to unilaterally disarm. And those numbers could be even better than what Enton, now I can never remember what it actually is because of Trump, Enton is saying, because given what the polling is about Trump with like the coalition, there was a piece in the New York Times yesterday, actually, basically just showing how, in terms of polling, the coalition that he won in 2024 has completely collapsed already.
So, in other words, this is just sort of assuming that it's not a dummy mander.
Right.
But if it's a dummy mander, in other words, in Texas, the way that you're going to pick up those seats is by taking surefire, slam dunk Republican congressional districts and diluting them by
spreading those Republicans
out. But it is contingent, like you say, on these massive demographic swings that took place in the 2024 election that now appear to have been just boomeranged back to where they were.
Oh, it's funny that. Oh, sorry. I can take a screenshot of it since. All right. Yeah.
We're going to see that boomerang. But so this is assuming that the people who have gerrymandered, like they could be confident about what their numbers showed. Democrats still just structurally get one more. In an election like this, generically speaking, when the one party is the party that is out of power usually picks up. So that's also a tailwind. And then there's this dummy mander element, which is so much of the Republicans' redistricting was based upon the idea that we're going to get, we made all these gains in non-white voters to the point where we had only a -15 level of support amongst non-white voters. And that has boomeranged back further than it was in 20 to now close to -45.
The 18 to 29 one, holy smokes.
Yeah. Now, 18 to 29 people don't vote necessarily in the same numbers. So that's not going to have the same impact as those non-white numbers. All registered voters, though, you can see it is 7, 8, or I should say 5, 6 points. Not midterm voters. It just keeps going on and on. In every level, they seem to have essentially lost ground.
And it's really the economy in many ways that the pollster says is they're citing.
18 to 29-year-olds are absolutely screwed by the economy in a way that I thought our generation was. I graduated right after the financial crisis, and the economy was completely anemic. It's apparently worse now. It's horrible.
Yeah, I mean, all of the firms that were trying to integrate AI and things like that, and if they did successfully, those if you're graduating from college, entry-level jobs, that's who's going to be impacted.
Let's go. Number 13, y'all are forgetting the Supreme Court is about to abolish the Voting Rights Act. This fascism won't be defeated electorally. Buckets and buckets. Democrats are doing a good job. What show am I listening to today? I mean, the same show. Like I say, it's one of the first times I have seen the Democrats actually step up in terms of that type of structural thing. I mean, it's just
it's a longer term thing, the redistricting thing. It doesn't mean that they're responding to this moment with ICE correctly. If people are making that mistake.
Well, I mean, let's just be clear. The real question is, what Democrats are we seeing today, as opposed to, but this ICE thing is really, I mean, what is impressive is how the Democrats are not capitalizing on the anger towards the Republicans. Even if you look at the polling now, when it comes time to vote, we'll see. But midterms in particular are about how motivated your voters are. And we shall see. And how motivated you're not most motivated voter are, right? It's somewhere in between. Special elections are completely about the level of motivation, because you have very small numbers coming out. How motivated are your voters to get out for something that, they're looking for any opportunity to register their anger towards Republicans. I really do think that Chuck Schumer is doing a disservice to what he ostensibly is trying to do, which is to get Democrats elected and win back the Senate in the fall. You had John Tester just, I think, endorse the Independent in Montana because he's like,
the brand here.
The brand is just absolutely garbage. And let's be clear, Joe Biden was from a policy standpoint and from a talking standpoint, very aggressive on immigrants, particularly towards the end. I mean, it was all about immigration in 2024. They tried to pass a bill. Donald Trump stopped it from passing. You can't out anti-immigrant the Republicans on this. And there is no logic to the argument of like, Democrat, like, why would you vote if you're anti-immigrant? Why would you vote for the soft anti-immigrant person versus the anti-immigrant person? You're in the market for pants. You don't go like, well, one leg fits. No, you buy the one that has two legs. Emma the Martin. Dear Sam, Emma, Brian, misspelled, and Matt, thought you should know the Mel Brooks movie is actually a remake of the classic 1942 Jack Benny film of the same name.
Interesting.
Didn't know that.
There you go. California left. My take is a 1999 baby, remembering that the economy is only held up by the wealthy. The working class youth, 18 to 29 voters, have only gotten through reliance on their parents and life partners. As things are getting worse, that support is eroding fast and the youth are being left behind at an increasingly higher rate as senators struggle to define a Google search. Buckets and buckets. Sam, I was joking, not wanting you to get back to bashing the party not in power. I knew that you were joking.
You know, there's a clip here, Brian Eno, that I think we should play. This is Brian Eno on BBC with a guy named Lord Bethel, because that's the type of society they have over there. And he speaks like a lord here. This is, in my opinion, the main question of politics, and I was happy to see Brian Eno have such a great response for this.
And I think the people who can get up and move are people who aren't in the least community-minded, or what they're worried about.
This is about wealthy people moving to avoid a wealth tax.
And I think the people who can get up and move are people who aren't in the least community-minded, or what they're worried about is
they make money.
Sorry?
But they are the wealth creators who create the jobs and pay for the schools and the hospitals. So they may not be to your tastes, but they are very important to the economy.
They're not the wealth creators. The wealth creators are the people who make things, and that's everybody. The wealth creators are the people who keep society running. So the people who you are calling the wealth creators, the ones who take advantage of the fact that society is being maintained by doctors, nurses, policemen, firemen, and all the other public servants. So I think we should get rid of that idea that there are a few people at the top of the wealth pyramid who are the ones who make us wealthy. They aren't. And I think
I should also just point out, because it's England, when he says, doctors and nurses are public servants, that's because the government pays them. It's a government-run healthcare system, not a single-payer healthcare system, which is just about insurance. But literally, it's like if everybody was able to access the VA system.
They're also not even they may be creating wealth and then hoarding it.
They're parasites.
That's the
Look at China. We have a counterexample now. China is vastly more productive of a society because we don't defer to people like Lord Bethel when they say, well, if they make money, who's going to make the jobs then? The government will. Get out of the way.
It's as if there's this idea that the money's going to go away.
Yeah.
There's not who's going to you won't have who's going to make soda, who's going to make bread, these products are going to exist. Someone else will do it. The only difference is that maybe if we structure things correctly, workers will just make more money. And you just won't have somebody this is the sort of all of this stuff was being created before. Mm-hmm. It was all being created before. the argument that if you don't allow someone to accrue billions of dollars, then we won't have EVs, for instance. That's not true. There's a market for these, as we will see in Canada very shortly, as the Chinese vehicles show up there.
I mean, I still see things in the business press about how, look at China, they don't even have a functioning stock market. Yeah, they have the best companies making the things that are going to need for the next century. Sorry that investors can't get a taste of it. We're so insane about how we set economic priorities because we defer to people who just invest and think that they're like the lords of creation. They failed us, and we're going to feel it increasingly over the next few decades.
Sam from Ottawa, I don't want to hear anyone giving Carney any credit when he gives that speech, but turns around and continues through on his austerity and privatization plan. Don't misinterpret what we're assessing here. This is not to give Carney credit as much as to say this is when there is a clear sort of announcing that the era is over. That's it. That's what that's about. Again, he's not saying we need to overthrow the neoliberal order. He's saying it's just America's role in this is it's going to be very, very different going forward. That's basically what it is.
Remember when Marco Rubio kept saying, let's dispense with the notion at the debate? That's what we're doing, is we're dispensing with the notion.
Yes,
and
exactly.
What notion comes after that is remains to be seen. Stay tuned.
Doll 30. Hey, I'm our crew. I know it might not necessarily be within the scope of the show, but have you considered interviewing members of the NDP leadership race, Canada's main, specifically Avi Lewis, who is the husband of Naomi Klein? Yeah, actually, I think we got an email about that. I've interviewed Avi years ago on his documentary, The Taking, probably 20 years ago now. I would do that.
Yeah. Also, if any Canadians have any sort of hints on how to get citizenship, just send an email.
I've legit been working on this behind the scenes. I'm dead serious. I was talking to you about that. Sam.
Yeah, interested, definitely. Yeah. Also, I want to get into the import some of those Chinese EV biz.
Be a bootlegger for Chinese EVs.
Cedars BYDs.
It would be sort of like a modern day Smokey and the Bandit, and I'm running I'm driving an 18-wheeler full of like 23 Chinese
and down. And then we could cut promos for you, like used car salesman promos for
exactly.
Sam's BYDs.
What else? Well, we've got some other Al Conniption. Did you guys see Adam Gentelson's loser pack staffers all attack Abdul Al-Said in unison last night? I'm looking at Hamid Bendis' tweet thread right now where he alleges they are violating 501c3 regulations by engaging in elections with Searchlight Institute. There's definitely a move afoot to do that. And they're trying to really obfuscate on the questions of Medicare for all. Just very briefly, this came up during Bernie's run. And Michael and I would have a little bit of a debate about this. And I think we came to some agreement.
How did Bernie's legislation
Bernie's legislation called for the abolishment of private insurance. And my argument was that it's not necessary to abolish private insurance to make Medicare for all work. I mean, we see sort of different versions of this internationally. The key is that every provider must take Medicare. If, whatever you call it, Medicare for all, Medicaid for all. I mean, it's probably more like Medicaid based upon what the specific there, but we call it Medicare for all. The idea is a single payer, and it's paid by the government. every provider must take it, whether it's a hospital, and you could do it you could do it in various ways. 80% of your patients must be Medicaid patients, minimum. You want to take other patients who take private insurance, go with God. I mean, because you're still going to have, even if you do a single payer insurance thing, undoubtedly you're going to have a handful of, what do they call them?
Like supplemental? Or?
No, the doctors who are like concierge doctors who are just going to be like, I don't even take insurance. You just pay me in cash. And I'm a multimillionaire, so it's like, okay, here's $30,000 a year for the doctor. You take care of me.
Yeah, that's Bupa, I think, is the private healthcare in Britain, for instance.
And I mean, so there will be that. You don't need to abolish it, and you can also have supplemental. I don't know what would happen. What would be included in a rollout of Medicaid or Medicare for all. The biggest issue with Medicaid is less about what it covers, because it covers a lot. It's really more about who takes it.
Mm-hmm.
But we license every doctor in the country. Every hospital in the country relies on some type of Medicaid or Medicare payments to exist. Easily put strings upon these things. So this is imminently doable. But even in the context of Medicare, there are things like Medigap, which is different from Medicare Advantage. But it's like, if you feel like you're going to need or want more coverage outside of like help with copays or deductible or whatever it is, it's there. So these things exist. And I think the idea is that like McMurrow is very not great on Medicare for All. Well, we played a clip where she just sort of made the really spurious and silly argument that would you want Donald Trump in charge of Medicare for All?
I want a capitalist.
Right. No, it's like, but you can make that argument for any government program. It's psychotic.
Including Medicare and Medicaid, which provide for 1/3 at least of our, would you say abolish the VA? Because Donald Trump is the president. Should we abolish the VA and privatize it?
Please don't. Please don't.
Thank you for the suggestion, Mallory.
Oh, yes. No, that's a good point. But I think what's happening is there is a realization amongst like the Democratic establishment that the pick that Chuck Schumer and Kristen Gillibrand's pick, what's her name? Haley Stevens, is a non-starter for a lot of people and getting less start.
Marge Simpson.
And getting less of a starter going forward. In addition to having like an array of policies, positions that are horrible, she's also just seems to be like a uniquely bad candidate.
Yes. Yeah. But she won in a purple district, and Chuck Schumer is still thinking like it's 1980.
Social media.
I would also imagine it has to do with like fundraising or something, like some money that she has access to some, and so it really does feel that McMurrow is becoming the sort of like substitute pick.
Mm-hmm.
And she provides for people who want to seem like they're bucking the Democratic leadership now. She provides an outlet for them. So there are, maybe folks in the Senate who are like, I'm going to be seen as being independent from Chuck Schumer. So here it is. Chris Murphy's going to do that. And so he is endorsing Mallory McMurrow, which again is Murphy's way of saying I'm independent of Chuck Schumer.
Which is really annoying because he's supposedly in this fight club with Bernie and Warren, like this kind of alternative new leadership crop, and obviously Bernie Sanders and Abdul El Sayed are they wrote a book together and he endorsed him immediately. So this is why this stuff gets undercut. Like there should be more coherence and if they want to be serious about challenging leadership. But Murphy's not that kind of politician.
They want to be seen as challenging leadership, which is I'm choosing a candidate that
right.
But there's no ideological coherence within the context of that Fight Club. It is really more of like a anti-establishment thing, and that's how some people make their burnish their bona fides as being sort of anti-establishment, populist. Yeah. And so they're coalescing around McMurrow now as their backup plan because they don't want Saeed because they are afraid of there being this kind of pressure about single-payer healthcare. Single-payer healthcare, they are so terrified of this. The idea that you could, in fact, expand Medicare. So instead of Medicare covering whatever it is, a quarter of the American public, if you add up Medicaid and Medicare, a third of the American public, to, I don't know, start with 2/3, right? I mean, however you want to slice it there, they are afraid. That is why when the American Rescue Act when Democrats wanted to provide health insurance, great impetus for people who are out of work because of COVID, they could have easily said, okay, Medicare is going to extend to you. Emergency Medicare E. I think there is actually a Medicare E, but let's Medicare E, emergency, and it's going to extend to you, and we're just going to absorb you into the Medicare system. They didn't want to do that. They were terrified at the idea of that because what if people liked it? What if people were like, hey, wait a second. If you can do this and the cost is X, why can't we just do this? Mm-hmm. Why can't we extend Medicare to 55? Why can't we have low-cost buy-ins for people at age 30 or actually starting at 26, right after you're off your parents' health insurance? I mean, whatever it is, they were afraid of opening the door. And instead, what they did is found the single least efficient way of providing free health insurance, which is COBRA payments. COBRA is the most expensive way that you can pay for health insurance. Yep. Because you're paying both the employer and the employee's share of it. And it's all disparate insurance plans. So there's no sort of like cost savings associated both with volume, both in terms of volume of what you're providing, but also volume in terms of like assessing what treatments are more effective than others. And they did that because I really do think they are so terrified of opening that door, because if that door opens even a little bit, people are going to start to push it open more. Mm-hmm. I mean, look, we have seen it in the context, at least within New York, as a model. You give them universal pre-K, and there it is. 5 years later, here they come back. 10 years later, they come back and they want now universal daycare.
They're terrified of the concept of universality. And that class of Democrats has also internalized that as something that's like almost like unethical. Or maybe not unethical, but like nasty. There needs to be some sort of hierarchy here. They come out of like a Reagan school of like era of Democrats.
I don't want to give Donald Trump's kids free college. That's literally what she said.
Exactly.
Hillary Clinton.
Hillary. I mean, right. Exactly.
They're
and this is
against us.
This is the thing that is really sort of I find fascinating. The arguments, it is so disingenuous. This is why I was like so, I wasn't as intensely invested in this Democratic primary in Michigan until I saw McMurrow criticize Medicare for All on such spurious grounds, on an anti-government grounds, because it's so desperate.
Yeah.
And there is no, you could try and make some argument like it's not going to be, the transition's going to be too hard. Politically, it's untenable. Or, yes, we've seen what like even the libertarian think tank Mercatus did the numbers, but I think those numbers are blinkered because of my experience in blah, blah, blah. No, but to come out and say, like, would you want Donald Trump in charge of your health care is just, Donald Trump is in charge of our health care. Yep. Do you see what's happening with the ACA subsidies? And they're able to get away with not extending the ACA subsidies because it is a much smaller, limited pool of people.
Mm-hmm. And I think also that answer from her was so cynical, like in the way that, you know, AIPAC knows that if you're going to stand up to them, that like, or right-wing donors know that like AIPAC's a great vehicle to attack them also on like, they would raise taxes on the rich. That's the kind of politician they would be. It's almost like the reverse of that with her, where if you see her making an argument that's cynical, there's no issue you can trust McMorrow on.
Well, that's the thing. Like, first of all, Medicare for All, again, is the sort of the linchpin, I think, of opening the door to the idea of universality in our politics. But also, it's a huge portion of, you know, what's left after healthcare.
Right.
Really just housing.
Education.
And education. But we're talking about improving education as opposed to the idea of like, I mean, just the number of hours you would regain in the course of like a year from having to deal with health insurance. Here is AOC at a hearing on insurance costs. And this was a pretty fascinating hearing. The chair is a doctor, a Republican. I think it's Hunt from North Carolina. And he, at one point in the hearing, talked about he had cancer and was trying to get treatment and had to apply like 11 times to get the medication he needed from CVS. And was basically just saying that, I mean, he said, like, we need more not-for-profit hospitals.
Yep.
He can't say what I think he really does believe, but he came very, very close and was certainly very, very aggressive about the problems that existed. And it was really like he was saying, you guys need to get better. Right. Even though he was also simultaneously talking about structure. But here is AOC.
But also classic conservative, when it happens to me, then I have a problem with it.
Yes, exactly. Very, very classic in that regard. Here's AOC. She starts off like with a smile that I feel like the CVS Health.
It disarms. It disarmed.
Well, him. I think he knows she's smiling because she's dragging him into the deep part of the pool, and he cannot swim. And she's just doing it with a smile on her face so that other people, she just like, I'm about to drown you. And he's like, I know she's about to drown me, but she's not like giving anything. There's nothing for me to complain about except for what she's asking.
You said it was like a waitress telling the person he's on the menu.
Yes. Welcome to TGIF Fridays. Guess what? You're on the menu today. Here we go.
Thank you to all of our witnesses for coming here today. Mr. Joyner, you are the CEO of CVS Health, correct?
Correct.
And I actually don't know how many Americans know this, but CVS Health owns Aetna, the health insurance company, correct?
Correct.
And CVS, which owns Aetna, also owns Oak Street Health Medical Clinics, correct?
Yes, it does.
And in addition to that, they own, of course, CVS Pharmacies, and CVS Health also owns CVS Caremark, the pharmacy benefit manager, which helps negotiate some of these rebates and prescription prices, correct?
That's correct.
And CVS Caremark processes nearly 30% of all prescriptions in a given year. And so, in other words, CVS Caremark helps determine the prices that patients pay for a third of all prescriptions in the U.S. In fact, I was following one of CVS's investor calls where they really laid out quite clearly what this means if you are a patient. This is what's known as a captive strategy. And CVS, in the investor call, used the example themselves of a patient known as Kate. Kate has an Aetna health insurance plan right here, which is owned by CVS Health. She then goes to a CVS pharmacy. She's connected to an Oak Street Health medical clinic. She sees a doctor at Oak Street Health who prescribes her medication. And then she goes to fill that prescription at a CVS pharmacy. So the price Kate pays for that medication is dictated by Aetna, CVS Caremark, and they also own the drug manufacturer Cordavis. Mr. Joyner, this is quite a bit of market concentration. Wouldn't you agree?
No, I wouldn't agree that it's market concentration. I would suggest it's a model that works really well for the consumer.
Yeah, I think it works very well for CVS. I think, in fact, you all said on the call that you all call it a fully engaged member. It's great marketing there. Fully engaged member unlocks sizable value for payers and CVS Health. So the health insurance gets a cut, the pharmacy benefit manager gets a cut, the drug manufacturer gets a cut, and the patient gets screwed. I think the Federal Trade Commission has also found that healthcare conglomerates like CVS Health charge more for medications filled at their pharmacies. We're talking about 1,000% markups on medications for cancer and HIV. And, I think this is actually an interesting point of common ground that I may have with some of our Republican colleagues here in this hearing. Because whether you're a blue-blooded capitalist or a card-carrying democratic socialist, I think corporate monopolies are a problem. And this vertical integration is destroying people's ability to access care.
She goes on also to say, which I find really interesting, one of the things that the ACA did, remember, it was the Affordable Care Act. The real name of it was the Patient Protection Act and Affordable Care Act.
Yep.
And one of the patient protections was that insurance companies needed to pay 90% of their premiums that they get from people towards healthcare. So I'm an insurance company. I've got to pay 90% of the premiums to healthcare. So what I do is I buy everybody who I'm going to pay.
Yep.
So I buy the pharmacy, I buy the pharmaceutical delivery mechanism, I buy the pharmaceutical production company, I buy a doctor's group, and so now when I'm paying 90% out, I'm paying it to myself.
Yep.
That's what that vertical integration, that's what that closed loop, that market concentration. It is. We used to have a concept in this country where you could not make a film and own the theaters, just to make it really simple to people. And the reason is because if I own the theater and I'm own the studio, I'm only going to show movies from the studio that I make.
Yep.
And that was reversed during the Clinton years.
Sony Pictures now owns the Alamo.
Yeah, exactly. And the reason is because you want there to be a bunch of different types of movies made by a bunch of different companies, and you want to have that the ability to produce those films to be spread out. Well, it's the same in this market. And they have cornered the market, and then they just add more and more middlemen and jack up the prices each time, and it all goes back into their corporate headquarters. I mean, it's like, we could insert, hey, I'm only getting paid so much to do the majority report. We only use, 90% of members' fees has to go into the production of the show. But I also have bought a company that rents microphones. And so I'm going to rent microphones to the majority report. And then also I am owning I own a converter box on the cameras. And so for the video to go into the OBS, incidentally, we shouldn't be using OBS. We should be using SAMS, which is Sam's streaming service. And that's going to cost a fee, and so on and so on. They keep just adding these middlemen in there so that the product, by the time the product gets out there, I get very little of the membership fee, but it all goes towards these other companies that are charging us money. And it just so happens to be me.
And by the books, this is supposed to be illegal. We just have not enforced antitrust laws in the way that we should. And that was in many ways what Lena Khan was arguing and what she was trying to do in her tenure at the FTC, which was just like, let's enforce the laws that we have on the books. But that's obviously gone away in the Trump administration. I guess we have some breaking news here.
Yeah, we got an update on what is going on in the protests in Minnesota. As you know, major strike day today, and some faith leaders, apparently 100 faith leaders, have been arrested in a shutdown of the Minneapolis-St. Paul airport.
No justice, no peace, no ice on our streets. No justice, no peace, no ice on our streets. No justice, no peace, no ice on our streets. No justice, no peace, no ice on our streets.
That's from on the Labor on the Line. I also point out Sarah Lazar is doing good coverage. I think we may have
we've
put some
had
of
her
her
on.
stuff on.
Yeah. Wow.
Is there anything else that we should
touch on here?
Yeah.
I mean,
it's just how depressing do we want to get in there, or should we? Do we have any?
The sheriff in Maine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Let's do that. As you know, or maybe you don't know, ICE has now begun its invasion of Maine. They're still maintaining. I mean, the thing that I think is hard for us to sort of like fully grasp is they are adding new ICE shock troops every day. And we know that they're just basically hiring anybody that they can find who's willing, and they're paying a lot of money. They got a lot of money to do it. They're sending folks up to Maine. Unclear to me why exactly Maine.
Large refugee population.
Somalis particularly.
Yes, large and a recent kind of influx in refugees there.
They may just at the White House think like, okay, where is the darkest skinned immigrants we can find, and we'll go to those communities first.
Muslims with I've seen commented on not as much solidarity as maybe other Muslim communities from wider folks.
And so, but ICE, as is their MO, apparently has been just looking for non-white people, brown and black, who are walking or driving or eating, and pulling them over and essentially just assuming that they are deportable, detainable, whatever. And here is the, where is this guy from?
He's a Cumberland County sheriff, which is the county that Portland is in.
I assume this guy looks like a, one of these resistance libs.
Blue hair woke.
I guess he left his Antifa outfit at home.
Woke sheriff.
Not all black. He's in his sheriff outfit.
This is one of our Antifa sleeper cells. Yeah.
Well, you're not supposed to say that on mic.
We've all seen the 3-minute video. And I've heard some people say, oh, it's hard to watch. What was hard is that there were 5 to 7
Great
ICE
accent.
agents there. In my world, my colleagues, we've arrested some dangerous people on the back roads of Cumberland County with 3 or less deputies. Yet, this was a show of force, a show of whatever they were trying to do with 7 people. What's even more disturbing is the comment made by the witness that videotaped.
I'll pause it for 1 second. We'll just make it clear. He's talking, the 3-minute video he's talking about is a video of 7 or 8 ICE agents pulling a black motorist out of his vehicle, slamming him against his car, cuffing him. And the guy turns out to be essentially a sheriff in training.
He's a corrections officer recruit.
Okay, corrections officer recruit.
Which is, by the way, not the first time that this has happened. Didn't that didn't
we saw in Minneapolis.
In Minneapolis,
they were talking about off-duty cops getting pulled over because they're
not
black or
white.
brown.
Yeah.
Here is the video of it right there. And the guy's obviously saying, like, I'm a citizen. Like, what are you doing? Yeah. So let's get back to this guy, this hot guy.
Made by the witness that videotaped this encounter, who said that in the 3 minutes they got out, they pulled a guy from the car, handcuffed him, put him in the car, they all took off, leaving his car with the windows down, the lights on, unsecure, and unoccupied. They left it right on the side of the street. Folks, that's Bush League policing. Again, in my world, you wait for a wrecker. You wait for somebody to come pick it up that the individual wants. Or you get permission to drive the vehicle into a public parking spot and you lock it up and you give the person their car keys. You don't leave their personal belongings unsecure along the streets of the city of Portland. It's not fair to the guy that owns the car. It's surely not fair to the Portland police. And it's what my understanding is going on. I'll end with this. We're being told one story, which is totally different than what's occurring or what occurred last night.
And that being, I mean, you know, he's sort of dancing around it a little bit. But the story that we're being told is that they're going after hardened criminals.
The worst of the worst.
The worst of the worst. And the reality is that we are seeing a fascist project that is a function of some type of uber nationalism that manifests itself through an attempt to racially purify
the
country.
Yep.
By targeting black and brown people as a signifier as to whether they should be allowed to be in the country, regardless of their status.
Yeah, and that little boy in Minnesota who was used as bait, and then for his father, and then was apparently sent to one of the camps in Texas. That family came across the border legally with the CBP1 app. They're targeting these people with temporary protected status. That is the legal process that they went through. I mean, and it's almost like, why do we have to keep reminding people of that? But they're classifying basically crossing the border without documentation as some sort of crime to justify this. But that's not what's happening here. So it's over 70% of the people that they have detained at this point have no criminal records, and they're even doing so for people that came here legally.
And also the city of Lewiston, Maine, like Sam, you were talking earlier in the show that Minneapolis would have been screwed if they didn't have an influx of immigrants. The same thing with Lewiston. Lewiston was destroyed, and the refugees have resuscitated that town.
Also, they are, like, we mentioned this at the start of the show, but what is happening in these detention facilities, in these concentration camps? Like, we have no idea how bad it is. The trickle out of the stories that we're getting that they're trickling out, a few just come to mind for me. One, they're housing migrant children in this facility in Pennsylvania that has a long history of physical and sexual abuse. Reviving that facility. The 55-year-old man in Texas who was strangled, and an eyewitness said it was the guards that did it, and is now being ruled a homicide. The detention, the guy that was fired for basically having sex with a Nicaraguan woman, and she can't consent because she's in detention, and was trading photos of her child. That's what he would get for her in exchange for sex. We played that footage. We still don't know what happened, of the guard leading that woman into a porta potty and entering it in it with her. And we've now had, 5-6 people who have died in ICE detention at this point?
Yeah, and let's be clear. Let's cue up number 8. Let's be clear here. There's also these are just tips of the iceberg.
Yeah.
In New Hampshire, at the detention center there, I have heard a firsthand account of a detainee who's there, again, like in process of getting green card and held there. They are getting food, beans and canned corn for every single meal. It is freezing. There's no heat in the facility, and they only have them wearing scrubs. There are no blankets. To the point where they are basically torturing people with the idea that they will then stop their, their legal proceedings.
Their asylum claim.
Their asylum claim. I assume it's across the board, whatever it is. If they're in process, they'll say, I opt to not go through this process. I'm going to go out here. And this is somebody who is married to an American citizen. And Popular Information had that piece that ICE has stopped paying for medical care for all detainees, all of them, since October. And there's 70,000 people in detention, meaning, like, what do you think? That all 70,000 people aren't going to have health problems? Like, they want them to die and suffer. Yep. Let's just play this report from PBS.
Food contaminated with worms and mold, limited access to clean drinking water, inadequate medical care. These are a few of the allegations made by migrant families in recent court documents about their children's conditions while in ICE custody. As part of this administration's crackdown on immigration, President Trump has restored the practice of family detention, with more than 1,700 children in custody since family detention centers reopened this past spring. Becky Wallison is a senior lawyer with the National Center for Youth Law and joins us now. Thanks for being here.
Thanks so much for having me.
President Trump says the border is effectively closed. If that's the case, how are these children and families still ending up in custody? Who are they?
So we've seen a lot of different trends happen since they first reopened family detention in April. But now a lot of families are being arrested from the interior of the United States. So these are your neighbors, your friends, your kids' friends who are being picked up in a lot of different ways, really from across the country.
And you've been inside the South Texas Family Residential Center in Dilley, where families are being held. Your organization has sued the federal government, alleging inadequate food, medical care, education, and safety. What were the most striking examples you witnessed that illustrate those failures?
Well, there are really profound problems with basic needs like food and water. So we have seen and heard a lot of things about children not getting child-friendly food, not being able to eat what's offered. As you mentioned, people reported vegetables that were moldy or had worms in them. People have gotten sick following meals. And there's really not food that's appropriate for small children. So, for example, one mother told us that in order to try and get her child to eat anything, she had to suck the sauce off each piece of pasta to try and get him to just eat some kind of plain meal that's not the Teddy Grahams and juice that's available.
For our viewers who might be unfamiliar, what are the minimum legal standards required when the government detains children and families?
So under the Flores Settlement Agreement, there are some basic requirements for detaining children, and those are based on the settlement when it was created in the 90s. And so children have a right to safe and sanitary conditions, and they have a right to be treated with a particular attention to their unique vulnerabilities as minors. That's the Flores Settlement Agreement. There are, of course, other requirements and constitutional requirements in terms of detaining anybody, including children. But Flores sets a very basic floor on the conditions.
So, and I imagine like what we're talking about is this is not unique to Texas. This is not unique to any of these the facilities. They are designed to immiserate people who have largely, if we are to believe the numbers coming out of our own government, committed nothing but civil offenses, maximum civil offenses. And we've set up these sort of torturous concentration camps as a way of purifying the nation. That's what they are. They're purification camps. These are the way that we purify our population.
So like all the reform shit, like Democrats do what they want to do. They're in a horrible position. The impotence. The entire premise of the move to have DHS at all, but let alone ICE, is a Nazi premise, and it should be completely rejected entirely. We can have like feds that go after criminals who are undocumented. That should be under the Department of Justice and INS. This entire DHS thing needs to be blown up, actually.
I mean,
well, we tried to get through the show without.
Tear down the fucking Statue of Liberty. Like, I mean, this is contrary to everything that we're taught about what this country's supposed to be about.
Definitely not Cameron. Fair enough about the Voting Rights Act, but we're within a couple of months of the first primaries. The VA stuff probably matters more for 2028. The Virginia stuff, maybe. I'm not sure. Whole time. This is elder abuse by Emma. A majority enthusiast. My boyfriend is currently in remission from thyroid cancer, but at the beginning of last year, he went through radiation therapy that was pre-approved by BCBS, Blue Cross Blue Shield. But as soon as he finished with the month-long run, 5 days a week, they took away the approval. Now the hospital has been fighting with them for a year to reapprove the treatment. Insurance is a scam. Horrible. Chris Burdick. When you say that Elon's joke-telling lets you see his mind's inner workings, I interpret that as you get to see the hamster fall out of its wheel. Our Burroughs Garden. Hi, Sam, Emma, and crew. Thank you so much for covering Gaza consistently, especially for your interview last week. It's not getting enough attention. I'm raising money for a few families that have one in particular, that's making near zero progress in her campaign. She just got a room with 3 walls and no roof for a month, which is a significant improvement over a tent for her and her 4 children. She's worried she won't be able to continue to paying rent. I don't know if you can share campaigns, but if you can, her name is Faten, Faten, and people can help her at her Chuffed campaign, which is a bit.ly link, bit.ly, bit.ly, there's a .ly, /help Faten, HELPFATEN, capital H and capital F in the link matters. So it's help, capital H, Faten, one word, help Faten, but the H and the F are capitalized. Thank you. Obviously, but if you want to go and do that, check it out, but understand that obviously we have not verified it or anything like that. Yep. Sam, Emma, 2028, nurse here. Let's not discourage Trump from taking too much aspirin, as it can also cause massive internal bleeding and renal failure in addition to bruising. We want him to get all the benefits.
Mm-hmm.
Also reminds me, nurses are on strike still in New York City, and it appears that there are other medical personnel who are going to join them. We'll talk more about that on Monday, but if you can go out and support the nurses in New York City, do. All right, 5 more, and then we'll be out of here. Who is you? Submission for the fun half. Rob Schneider's new bourbon company selling $80 bottles under the name Tears of the Left. You can find it at tearsofTheLeft.com.
Creative.
Yep.
Great comedy writing.
Featuring
fresh stuff.
Featuring Kevin Sorbo and more to be announced ambassadors.
That joke's been aged in a barrel for 20 years.
You know who we need to talk about this is when the guys, podcast guys are on, because they've been following this. I've heard about this before.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Tough time to get into the liquor business, but I guess that that branding.
Not if you have the audience of the stupidest fucking people in the entire world.
It's true. God. Just, it would be
Imagine having an
so
audience.
fun. I was just thinking, like,
didn't feel
it
guilty
would be
about.
so fun. And I'm just like, I'm kicking myself because I feel like, we had talked about this like 10 years ago. And if I just done it, that's why we did Ken, and Ken. It was like, want to do this. Can't really do it, but we'll just do a pretend. But I mean, if I had just headed down that road, like, there's so many different ways in which to scam these people. Really, it's a shame. And it would have been fun. It would have been so fun. Let's call it Tears of the Left. Oh my God. It's going to sell so
Remember
much.
the Build a Wall Foundation scandal?
Yes.
Yeah, something like that would be so fun.
Yep.
Barack Obama. It's strange that he doesn't have a certificate of live birth.
We're on the investigation, and we need to get to Hawaii.
Exactly. We're getting stonewalled here. What we've decided to do is throw off those people who have been following us by hanging out at the beach for a couple of days.
The Turtle Bay Resort does not want us to be in the suite. What are they hiding?
Get your Barack Obama birth certificate toilet paper at kenandken.com.
Oh my God. Would have been so fun. What a fun life it would have been.
A crypto coin?
Yep. Mega MCA. Trump saw the Mercator projection map that makes Greenland look bigger than Europe, and that's why he wants it so badly.
It's the size of Russia. Just look at it.
Oh my God. Dave from Tallinn, Chapo had someone on from Minnesota saying they were routinely coming across cars, window broken, keys in ignition, like the owner had been raptured.
Yeah, I've seen videos of that. Cars just overnight sitting there with their emergency lights blinking, doors open. Yep.
Spaghetti brains. If it's shaped like a human, parrot jokes like a human, but still fills you with a deep sense of unease. It might be Elon Musk. Like Liz Lemon taught me, if a chip company also owns a diarrhea relief medicine manufacturer, the chip guys might be tempted to, poison you.
Yeah.
Vertical integration.
Another timeless 30 Rock episode. Yes.
Also, I would argue that Elon Musk is not shaped like a human.
Yeah. Yeah.
Shaped like a Cybertruck.
I mean, I was also thinking of 30 Rock earlier with my homonym stuff. That's
I know, I
another
remember.
great bit where, yeah.
The word is pear.
It's always the other one.
Apparently, it's not a homonym because unless it was spelled SYNC.
No, it's pronunciation. It's pronunciation and
Spelling.
Can we end the show?
So sync
is
pronounced sync.
Yeah, that's SYNC. But it was bringing in we're going to sync this into. We're syncing everything into the office. It's SINK. Yeah, SINK. That's not SYNC.
But they're pronounced the same.
SINK and SINK are pronounced the same, but they're not spelled differently, so it's not a homonym.
SINK and SYNC are pronounced the same.
There was no usage of SYNC. That's my point. It was, I'm bringing the sync
You're
in.
right. I don't care.
Well,
You're
Matt
right.
and I are going to do another hour on this.
Fine. Well,
I'm too much of a people pleaser for this moment.
Did I ever say that?
Huh?
Did I ever say that?
Say SYNC?
Because it's let that sink the verb versus let that sink the object in. It's
Right.
not a homonym.
Yeah.
Nyammer said that.
Well, I don't know. I am said that, but they said sink would be SYNC, not SINK.
But they're different. Okay.
That's a pun.
Yeah, I tuned out, but you're on my side, right, Matt? Okay, thank you.
That's all that matters, Deb. I'm not listening, but who says I'm right?
Thanks, buddy. Yeah, right.
The final I am of the week. Oh, it's all about the sink stuff.
Coming over the weekend.
Folks, we're doing a Saturday show.
It's going to be like the math debates.
Cold Dog, knowing Trump, he'd tear down the Statue of Liberty and put up a statue of himself. Don't give Trump any ideas, Emma. Laugh my ass off. Matt, Brian, Emma, great job this week. Folks, see you on Monday.
It might take all the strength I got to get to where I want, but I know somehow I'm gonna get there. I wasn't looking when I just got caught between the truth and the lie bar. But finding out won't make me feel any better. Yeah, I know the clock is ticking, but the meds are gonna kick in, and my pilot light shining bright. I guess somewhere the choice was made for the option where you don't get paid, for the road that bends before it finally breaks you. I guess somehow I lost my drive between the 101 and the 5. Do you know how?
Okay, folks. I've got to make an apology. I am such an idiot.
How did you not see did you see this coming?
When Emma said sink, bring in the sink into the office, and sink was a homonym, I don't know what I was thinking about, okay? I thought like, okay, maybe it's not, and then maybe, I don't know, if I had just seen like an I am or said, oh, it needs to be
It's a homonym is a specific word.
Okay, and the thing is, there's many different flavors of homonym. Like a homonym can both be same spelling or different spelling, but different meaning for the word. And I made the mistake of thinking that it needed to be different spelling.
Right.
And so I said some things that I was not a homonym, and I was wrong.
Like, for instance, when you said you didn't want to see a male in the women's locker room, you meant a letter, right?
That's the whole point.
Like a piece of mail.
Yeah.
Not appropriate to bring that here.
Right. And so I made a mistake. I mean, you know, it happens.
How can you make this mistake? Homonym, the definition, it's available on the internet. I mean, you can go on a dictionary and read what a homonym is.
People make mistakes. It's not that, you know, whatever. Let's let bygones be bygones and forget that it ever happened.
New show tomorrow.
Okay. All right. So back to the regularly scheduled ending.
It might take all the strength I got to get to where I want, but I know somehow I'm gonna get there. I wasn't looking when I just got caught between the truth and the lie bar. But finding out won't make me feel any better. Yeah, I know the clock is ticking, but the meds are gonna kick in, and my pilot light shining bright. I guess somewhere the choice was made for the option where you don't get paid, for the road that bends before it finally breaks you. I guess somehow I lost my drive between the 101 and the 5. Do you know how far the detour takes you? Yeah, I know the clock is ticking, shifted in and out of